say that a lot. Every Tuesday is something special, and it's because it is. Today is extra special. We are going to be interviewing 3 indie game devs who are all working on metroidvania games, and they all look really, really good. I'm super excited. So we're going to learn a little bit about each of the different games and kind of what they're working on, but more so than anything, I just kind of throw some background in there. I grew up as a gamer my whole life, and I literally know nothing about game dev. I know nothing about game design. I don't really know kind of all the parts and pieces that go into game dev, and so I know there's a lot of people out there who are interested in potentially becoming a game dev themselves. Maybe they want to know where you would even get started, or just what goes into making a game. Like, I love this medium so much. I love video games. I'm sure a lot of you do as well. And so that's what we are going to be talking about together. We will be asking the game devs all kinds of different questions. We're going to start like super basic, and I don't think we're going to get all that complicated. But yeah, I'm really, really excited. So let's go around. We'll do kind of quick intros. Kind of tell me your name, what game you're working on, and then we'll start with the questions from there. So the first person we have here is going to be Stevie, Nine Finger Games. Tell us what your game is, and we'll go from there.
Hello. Hi, so I'm Stevie, like you said. I'm developing Zapling Bygone. It's currently on Kickstarter, and it's been a lot of fun. It's about a little alien that lands on a planet and has to repopulate.
Oh, interesting. Let's see. I can pull it up here. So this is a Kickstarter here, and there is a link down in the description below. Yeah, I'm excited. This is getting really close, because how many more days do you have left on the Kickstarter? 8 days?
It's 8 coming on 7, yeah.
Ooh, it's close. It's close. So if you guys are thinking about backing something, there you go.
I got sweaty feet. No, put it that way.
Ooh, get it. You'll get it. I have a feeling you'll get it. All right, and so next we've also got, oh, my picture disappeared. There we go. We have, I believe it's Jordan, right? Mr. Morris?
That's correct. You can call me Jordan.
So tell us about your game. I know me and you earlier, we did a full-on interview. We played through the demo, but tell everyone who hasn't heard of your game what you got going on.
So I'm Jordan from Mr. Morris Games. My last name is Morris, so super original. I am developing Haiku Robot, which is you play like as a cute little robot in a virus-infected machine world, where you kind of have to destroy the virus and save the world, while also try and figure out your origins.
Yeah, buddy. It looks good. It looks so good. Like, even playing through the demo, I had a blast with it, and it was like, I'm excited for what you're going to be doing. And you're all over social, all over on Twitter, and constantly doing updates and stuff, which is really fun. So you were successful, right, on Kickstarter?
Yeah, that's correct. I launched my Kickstarter back in September last year. It was fully funded in October. Finally got to quit my day job actually in December. It took about a month longer than planned. But now I'm working full-time on the game. And to be honest, it's great. Like, I've been enjoying the process so much. So I'm looking forward to answering everybody's questions today with Stevie and Alex.
For sure. It's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. And then last but not least, we also have Alex with Crowsworn.
I'm supposed to do an intro.
Oh, yeah. Tell yeah. Who are you, and what are you doing?
Yeah, so my name's Alex. I'm part of Mongoose Rodeo. I do the game design, basically the bulk of the game design, I guess, and animation right now for Crowsworn, which is, I guess, an action-packed metroidvania that's, as we've mentioned a million times, I guess, inspired by Hollow Knight, Bloodborne, and Devil May Cry. So we kind of threw that in a bit of a stew and mixed it, and that's what we got, I guess. So yeah, I'm excited to get in the chat with these 2 other chaps, and yeah.
Good stuff. I'm super excited. Like I said, like I just want to know, like, how does all this go down, and Yeah, so even before we get into like, okay, how do you get into game dev and like where do you get started and everything, I'd like to know a little bit about each of you and what experience you had with game dev before you started working on this game, the one game that you're currently working on now. So I'm sure some of you already you did work on some games, or you worked on little projects, and some of you this is the first time you're into development. Whatever the story is, I'd like to hear that. So we'll let's do the same order on this one, and then as we go, we'll kind of I'll start switching it up. But yeah, Stevie.
So it's a weird one for me because I remember like I was in college when I was 15 years old, and one of the computers had Game Maker Studio installed, and I spent ages just sitting there and making things move around the screen and enjoying it. But it was never taken very seriously until university, when I like throughout like 15 to 18, I'm just messing around with Game Maker Studio, and then well, I think it wasn't called Game Maker Studio at that point; it was just called Game Maker. But anyway, when I decided to go to university, I chose to study game design. Half a year into university, I didn't like game design at all. I didn't like it. It was too artsy. It was not enough like focused on code. So I quit, and I moved to web application development. Graduated, went back into the games industry weirdly as a tester, and then done games production, and then 2 years later after that quit because it was the gambling industry and didn't like gambling, and then I started Zapling Bygone, which is where I am now.
Interesting. Okay, so yeah, it sounds kind of a windy road, if you will. Okay, good stuff. And then Jordan.
Somebody in the chat saying it sounds like a job interview. Makes me laugh.
Right? So yeah, who's gonna win? Who gets the job, right?
So all right. The way I started was actually very recently. Like, I have no coding experience whatsoever, no game development experience whatsoever, to be honest. I studied architecture, so I did all the artsy stuff that Stevies don't like. But I was working at like an office job in an IT company. I was working for the marketing department and I basically kind of had full control over the website. But as the company just got bigger and bigger and bigger, you know, it's like corporation stuff starts to creep in, and I was getting a bit tired of it. And I had found this new passion of doing games, and to be honest, it's so great. Like, I really enjoy it. I don't know how many videos I've watched on like game design, and I've probably watched all of Game Maker's Toolkit videos. If you don't know what those are, then they're like these super great videos from this game designer Mark Brown, which I think everybody here has probably also watched. So yeah, I just over the last like year and a half, 2 years, I think now, I've just been kind of doing that as a kind of side project and a hobby. And so I'm probably the most noob game developer, to be honest, out of the three here.
I remember you saying that as far as you just spending a ton of time like watching all the videos and just kind of following them step by step to just kind of get a base game, and then from there just like slowly tweaking it to be able to get what you wanted. I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah, now I'm like happy and also proud to say that I can do pretty much, I can do like a lot of stuff that I want by myself, which feels really good, to be honest. Like you have an idea and you kind of just, you know, come up with your own plan of how to execute that, and it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it because like I feel like if I was gonna do it, that I'd probably end up going to YouTube to looking up videos as well. So yeah, Alex, how did you get into game dev, or like what's your experience with it?
Yeah, so I feel like we answered this. Oh, I mean, it's a new show, but yeah, last time we had the same talk.
Fair enough.
No, it's cool. It's just like it's always like such a long-winded story, but basically, graduated from university doing engineering, did the engineering thing for close to a year, quit the engineering thing to try and make a game with my best friend. We kind of like bumbled and stumbled trying to make like an MMO, RPG, TCG, throw any other acronyms you can in there. Made it pretty far, quit on that, went sort of separate ways. I did the indie thing. He worked for an indie thing. Eventually made Unworthy. After Unworthy, we got back together, and now we're working on Crowsworn.
Got it.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And oh man, there's there's already like so many different questions that I want to ask as far as like, because some of you guys are working solo, some of you guys I think all of you have like kind of a different thing going on. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, you've got like a team of people working with you. Jordan, you've got it's you and just your brother, or was there more than that? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Man, I can't believe you just said that. But I mean,
Am I way
wow,
off?
that's the first time somebody said that.
I'm way off.
There's a music guy, and it's funny because the Discord guys they all joke around saying that he looks like me, but he's not actually my relative at all.
For some
But
reason,
yeah,
I
have
thought the
something like-
story was your brother. I don't know why. I distinctly remember that. Wow.
Nah, there's
No,
a music guy.
Is it just that you guys
We-
have the same name?
Nah,
No,
man, I think
I'm
you
way
must be getting
off. I'm sorry.
confused.
Yeah, now I'm getting confused. My bad.
Oh, man,
Nah, but
the
I do
interviewer-
have a music partner, and
Okay.
we look awfully similar. So
That's funny.
I thought you were getting confused in that sense.
Have you met his parents?
Oh man.
No.
Oh man. Okay. So got it. But so it's just you and then a partner for music, and that's it.
Yeah.
You're you're essentially doing all the animation and whenever I say game dev and game design, those are actually two different things. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I always just always said game dev was like everything. You're creating a game, that's game dev. Like I've by researching what questions to ask, I'm learning there's a lot more to this.
Yeah. I'm even like already looking forward to maybe in the future, having somebody else to help. So like, you could almost divide them roles a little bit more. So like one person kind of takes care of more of the game design and the other one takes care of more of the development.
Got it.
But for now, it's just me.
Good stuff. All right. So, now what am I trying to think of? Let's go to the next story. So I want to know, I'm actually really curious because I'm wondering if all of you are using the same engine for your different games because they're all 2D Metroidvania. What engine are you going with and why? And this time we'll start with Jordan.
I use Unity.
Okay.
Mainly because when I first started, I was looking for because I had zero experience. I picked Unity mainly because I was just looking for whatever game engine has the most documentation. I mean, Unreal is big as well, but when I looked at that, it was all 3D games, and I have no experience with 3D art. At least I had some experience with 2D art, and I saw that Unity accommodates to that. So I just picked Unity simply because there's just so much documentation for me to learn from and get on board. But as I use it more and more, I'm like, yeah, I'm so happy that I went with Unity.
Good to hear.
Unity's great.
What about you, Alex?
Yeah, we use Unity right now. When I was working on Worthy, I'd used Game Maker, and I feel it's interesting that when Jordan brought it up that way, it's like I often get asked the question about whether you should use Game Maker or Unity, and I think it really comes down to how much you know, I guess, at the time. So for me, I'd usually encourage people to dive into using Game Maker before Unity, where if they were to, let's say, have the experience that sounds like Jordan has, but I'm awfully impressed that he was able to just, from what I understand, zero experience, kind of just dive into Unity and pick it up so quickly. So that's awfully impressive, I'd say.
Oh, thanks, man.
You love me? Oh man, that's nice.
Thanks for using Unity. We love you too.
Lady Relyea just came in and brought me a margarita. Cheers, guys.
Oh damn.
I know some of you, so if you guys don't know, on the live stream, two of our guys here, we've got both Stevie and Jordan are like, it's first thing in the morning, like it's crazy early, and for Alex and myself it's like later on at night. So yeah, I don't know. I appreciate you guys making the time to be here. I really do.
Wouldn't miss it.
Okay, and then Stevie, what engine are you using?
So I'm using Game Maker, mostly because I'm scared of learning new things, and I learned Game Maker, and it's going really well, so I'll stick with it. Like when you said like you recommended people to go with Game Maker first, as Alex said, I'd kind of agree with that. But if you wanted to move into like the mainstream game industry afterwards, you want Unity experience really. So it's kind of a toss-up between getting things done quickly and probably more easy using Game Maker, or harder but more professionally and expandable in Unity.
Got it.
That's interesting. Maybe I should pick up Game Maker now.
No, you're doing good, man.
I would actually say as well something that helped me, because I agree that like learning programming was quite hard at the beginning, and for me I had like this kind of turning point when I opened Game Boy Studio. Have you guys ever like played around with that?
I feel like I've heard of it, but I never played it or tried it.
I think it's because we spoke about it before. Like I always praise this piece of software. It's amazing. So basically, like you can make Game Boy looking games with like no code, or it kind of strips that code aspect, but it kind of keeps that logic aspect. So you still need to use like if statements and like store variables and then do stuff off of that. And for me, when I could see that kind of like laid out more clearly in GB Studio, then like it just kind of clicked for me. So then once I was playing around in there and I went back to Unity, everything kind of started making more sense. I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but for me it just felt like a turning point in learning how logic kind of works for code.
That makes sense. There's,
Yeah.
in Game Maker you can kind of do a similar thing where it's kind of visual drag and drop and like the blocks connect, but it is coding. You might not realize you're coding, but it is.
Interesting. There's a Nintendo Switch Maker, I think it's called, or there's a programming game for Nintendo Switch where you can make your own games coming out. I think it's in June, probably around E3 timeframe. Looks super interesting. Like that's something I really want to get my daughter into. So in that way she can learn how to program the games. I can just give her the ideas and be like, you make it.
I think programming in general is just really good for learning how to think better in a way, because it makes you start at the start of a process when you're thinking something through.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think problem solving is like the enjoyable aspect that I get from it. Like you could be stuck on how can I do this one thing, and after a bit of digging and trial and error and like trying stuff out, you kind of eventually get it. And there's like always kind of more than one way to approach it. There's like multiple ways of approaching it, so it's just kind of figuring out what's the best. Like that's something that I enjoy.
Good stuff. Let's see. So I want to know, when you guys are creating your game, do you have any ideas that you keep as like your North Star for your game to like kind of always have as like the direction that you're going? Because I'm sure as you get lots of different ideas and you think about like lore that you could do or different art or different like whatever, I'm sure it's really easy to get pulled in a lot of different directions. How do you keep yourself focused and like going in the right direction? Or do you have something like that? We're gonna start with Alex.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess for us, when I think about it often, I kind of break down the flow into two sort of streams, where there's the like, let's say completing your game from the most vanilla perspective. There's like going from point A to point B, which is basically, I guess in terms of a metroidvania, will go from your character stripped of everything, and then your character with having all your Metroidvania aspects and power-ups at the end, and you try and figure out what the trajectory between those 2 points looks like. And that would have to be, like, in my head, exceptionally lean without anything, like no peripherals that are unnecessary. Like, it has to be just exceptionally precise and lean. And then there's the tertiary, or like the secondary stream, I guess, sorry, where we add all the kind of like cherry on top pizzazz that not necessarily would not necessarily affect the core Metroidvania experience, and that's just more like to add this sort of flair and have fun with it. So I mean, like, for us, the example like that would be, I'm sorry, I'm just going to specifics, but like when you have the guns and then something like the accelerated shooting and how it like knocks you back through the air, that's something that somebody might be able to use to kind of move a little bit further in the air and sort of maybe like sequence break things or whatever the case may be, and that would be like a secondary component that doesn't have anything to do with like the core loop, I guess. So like that's stuff we don't focus on necessarily. Like, we don't think about it, we leave it for later. We can always fine tune it, but like the core experience of like, you know, what's the distance with how far you wall jump, or how many iframes do you get in your roll, or whatever the case may be, like that. That would be the stuff where we're sort of like, that's the what you're, I guess, referring to as the North Star with it, where we're hyper focused on making that sort of trajectory precise,
getting the base game of whatever it is you're doing, like just trying to get the core done, and then let it grow from there.
So so like, for example, in that case, just like if we were to strip the guns from the game would still need to be like pretty good and feel great going through, and then the guns and stuff, that's just like the cherry on top or whatever. I don't know if that makes complete sense, but I tried to answer that as best as I could.
No, it's okay. No, it's good. It's good.
Also, I think once, especially for like a Metroidvania, as soon as you like mess around with those kind of values, where like how high you can jump or how far you can travel like horizontally, then it kind of dictates like the whole level design as well. Because, you know, we want to tease new areas that are just kind of out of reach, and we want you to come back to later. But if you mess around with that jump height and now you can jump up that area, then we just end up breaking like the entire game. So it's pretty good to get that sort of stuff done as early as possible and try and not tweak it too much after. I feel
you really trap yourself in, don't you?
Yeah.
Interesting. Stevie, your chance to, if you got anything to add, or if you feel like that's
No, I do. There's I like the way you put it, actually, when you said like the North Star, because it's not something that you think about constantly. But like consistency is super important for me. Like, when I started the game, I had two specific hex colors that I liked, and it's like the luminous green that you'll see everywhere, and it's like a bright orangey color, which is like the opposite. And I've stuck to them two colors for good and bad. You might not notice it until I mention it, but every enemy will have that orange color in it, and everything good will have that green color in it.
Interesting.
That's something I've kind of just stuck with constantly. And then the other thing is just basically, I think Alex touched on it, but making things feel good is the number one thing. Like making the controls instant and react instantly, and like having, I don't know if your guys games have inertia, but if the player presses left, I want him to go left instantly. I don't want like a charge up. I don't want it to slow down. I want everything to be precise and instant. And that's like the two main things that I've stuck with, really. They're my North Stars, I suppose.
Got it. Okay, so along those same lines, I'm really interested to know, like, what order does a game get made? And I would imagine, just kind of based on what you guys were saying earlier, is that you guys would really have to start with the mechanics and just like the basic, the movement, the shooting, whatever mechanics that you want to put in. You kind of have to have that all dialed in the beginning. Like for Haiku, if you want to add in that hook shot, you need to add that in and play test it early before you do your level design. Otherwise you're going to break your levels. Or if you want to, I don't know, whatever else. tell me if I'm wrong. My understanding is there's kind of like the mechanics, there's the coding of the game, there's the art, and then you got the level design and the story. If I had to break it down into 5 pieces, well, I mean, you can break it down into more or less, but I don't know, Stevie, to help me. What goes into how do you make a game? What's the order of it? Like how are you approaching it?
I think my way might kind of counter Alex and Jordan's way in a way, because the way I work is I like to get things done, like polished and complete as soon as possible, and that does mean cutting some corners and making a buggy mess initially, and then iterating over it and fixing things and making things look pretty and making the mechanics feel good. But like the reason I got the demo done so quickly is because I just flat out I just cared about getting it working. I didn't care about anything else and making a whole zone. And then after that, I realized how much of a buggy mess and how ugly it was, and then kind of iterate over it and just tweaking everything from the mechanics, the art, the enemies, how they attack, like everything that you'd imagine gets tweaked. It's kind of like in agile development they call it, what do they call it? Release first? No, something like that. But it's basically
MVP?
You want to make it. Is it MVP?
Yeah, minimum viable product, right? Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's about getting it working and getting it potentially shippable as quickly as possible, and then iterating over it and making it perfect.
Interesting. Okay. So, and then also with that, like I don't even know like how much of it is like you come up with like the image of the character you want to make. You start with that, and then you slap that over like the mechanic, like the game thing.
For me, it wasn't even
image
that.
on top, and then I literally don't know. Like, explain to me like I'm 5.
I had a square and
Yeah.
I made it move across the screen,
Yeah.
and then a week later, that square had a face,
Mm-hmm.
and then a week later, that square had a tentacle,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually I have a game, but I don't know where to stop because I keep iterating over it and making it better and better, but I don't know what the game will look like in 2 weeks' time.
Interesting. Okay, got it. Yeah, Jordan, what's again? Explain to me like I'm 5. How do you start? I mean, granted, you kind of. It sounds like you had gone through your own process, but I don't know. How do you approach this?
I would say actually I'm a little bit like Stevie's. Like I cannot help not having something that looks a bit polished, because like I found that for me it's a big motivation for me to keep moving forward. So if I see like a block, then it kind of gets very boring for me very quickly, you know, like just seeing a square move around.
Yeah.
So I would just usually throw in like some, what I like to call like cheap animations, just something that I haven't spent too much time on, just to get an idea. And it actually really frustrates me because I show my partner like everything and she's like, oh, I don't like the animations. I'm like, you're not meant to like the animations, they're just placeholders, like don't focus on that, please. But
That's funny.
yeah, so like for me, I think I started with the character, then like once that's in place, I feel like the world starts to come together. After that, you start to see like all of these cool things and you start to think, oh wow, like what if we do like this Matrix vibe for this sort of thing and that, and you know, like you just get like this influx of ideas. So write all those down, because I think writing everything down is important. Because like you have these ideas now, and then you have so many ideas and they keep coming and they just push all the old ideas out. So if you write them down and you go back occasionally and reread them, then you know, you might think, oh damn, that was a good idea, like how did I forget about it? So I usually write everything down.
So how far do you get? I'm actually like that very much so, even just with my YouTube channel. I constantly am like trying to iterate and think of ideas, and then you save it for later, right? But when it comes to like the mechanics, like we were talking about earlier, how far do you either think of or ideate and like build the mechanics before you even start level design, or is a lot of this stuff kind of happening in tandem?
I don't know, it's hard to say. It's like ideally you should have that sort of stuff at the beginning, in my opinion, and I think I did. But in the recent like month, I think I've added or have tweaked like one of the mechanics, which kind of breaks the game, like we were discussing earlier. So I have to go back and revisit a few rooms just to make sure you can't break anything too big. So I think like you should try to get stuff as early as possible. The way I did it was I just looked at the controller and I was like, okay, how many buttons does a controller have?
Ah,
And
okay,
just like, okay, every button needs to do something, right? And then just try and map everything out like that.
I like that.
Like that's literally how I approached it. So like every button kind of does something, whether it be like a teleport or a dash or like a grapple or attack, jump, all of these sort of things. So like once you have that sort of mapped out and you kind of think, does it fit with the world? Does it fit with the character? Does it fit with like, these sort of things? Then you just go from there. But I would still say you need to leave like a little bit of leeway. So like I currently have one button that just isn't mapped and I don't know what to do with it.
Mystery button.
Yeah.
Just tell everyone it does something and then never tell them what it is, so they just mash it in every possible situation.
Well, I was thinking it could just be like, you just press it and it just does one of the abilities, but you just don't know which.
The randomizer button.
Yeah, the random button.
Cool. Alex, what do you think? How do we approach this? It's my first game. I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, it's your first game and you don't know what you're doing, how to approach it. Oh man, what kind of game are you making?
If it's my third game, then I should hope I know how to approach it. Maybe.
Well, it depends if your third game's the same as your first or second.
Ooh, true. Let's say Metroidvania, because I think that's kind
Okay.
of I think that's the vibe we're all on right now.
Gotcha. How would you approach it? For me, I guess, I mean, with the experience I guess I have now, the way we're kind of going with it is I would probably say develop your core like vanilla, if you will. So it's like every Metroidvania. Well, actually, that's not true because I didn't have jumping and unworthy, but let's assume that was like an outlier. So let's say you have your jumping, you have your running or walking, and you have your attacking. So I would recommend first thing is probably get that feeling good in like a vacuum without any enemies or anything. After that, throw on like a meat sponge just to feel what it looks like, decide whether you want to have like pogo or not, things like that, and then see how that feels. And then after that, I would say is when you start adding your like Metroidvania mechanics, and you can start trying to be creative with that. Like, double jump is probably standard across Metroidvanias, but like that's something that you put in, decide how far that's gonna extend your jump, whether it's gonna have any decay or kind of like dropping slightly below with the weight before you pop back up, which all like influences how it works.
And you're doing all of this in like a blank slate like room, typically, like to just kind of test, and like you add a little thing and okay, and then you iterate, and then you add another little thing, you iterate, and it's just like in a empty play space, or are you also kind of get an idea for the world, and maybe sometimes you're adding art to it, and then you go back to developing the way it feels, and then going back to I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that stuff is really sort of person to person, team to team dependent. Like, it really depends how many people you have on the team. Can you have somebody working in parallel on art, just so you shove those things and evaluate them at the same time? If you do, then great. But if you're doing it all on your own, I would say in the beginning maybe the art isn't particularly as necessary unless you need it for inspiration, because sometimes the art might inspire ideas in terms of like what kind of mechanics we're talking about if you're like in a slump.
Yep.
So that's okay. But the only like big takeaway I would say for this is level design from a strictly like geometric standpoint, I would say should probably be left at like the very tail end of it, once you know roughly speaking what all your mechanics are, because that's going to allow you to like piece the whole world together in a meaningful way and actually plan for how the juxtaposition of your abilities, your gating abilities, will work together in tandem to like create the right experience. Because if you're making those up as you go and you're slapping the level together and coming with abilities along the way, it's like statistically unlikely that you're going to arrive at the optimal solution, because you don't have all your variables out at the front.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Yeah, I agree with that.
Actually, I just posted a GIF in your Discord in the random channel, and it literally shows what Zapling Bygone looked like when I first started developing it. It's literally just squares and the character jumping and using abilities on the squares, with like no art apart from the character.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's kind of like that initially when I started, at least. Nothing fancy, just squares jumping around.
Oh, look how
When I was-
short his legs are.
When I was looking at when Alex was speaking, I was like patting myself on the back because I'd done pretty much exactly what he said.
Well, I mean, I might not be right about this. That's just like my take.
Yeah, no
That's
worries.
It's gospel now.
Where did you post this image? Was it on your Kickstarter?
I put it. That image was, I just tweeted it out before the Kickstarter started, and I posted it in your Discord.
Oh, okay. I was like, where I want to show it.
Oh no. Yeah, it's in your Discord in the text channels, in the random one it's called.
Random. Okay.
I mean, it's funny. I just gotta interrupt to see somebody writing in like me drinking coffee to keep my sanity while fighting Abstrat, and I'm like, every time I see the word sanity now, I just think of Phasmophobia.
Oh yeah, you did the
Damn
team
you,
building.
Leth. Damn you, Leth.
There we go. There's the beginning. That's cool.
That was just me in a Discord with my friend, and I was just sending him builds like, does that feel good? He's like, no. Like, does that feel good? No. Does that feel good? Until we got it right.
That's so awesome. Like just so much like progress. It looks like it's so much better and feels better.
It does. I mean, I'm super happy with how it is now. It can always get better though. Like, I'm
Yeah.
always tweaking things.
Speaking of which, anybody who's just joining the live stream right now, Zapling Bygone is right in the middle of their Kickstarter campaign. There are almost 7 days left, and they're about, let's call it 3K short of their pledge goal. Yeah, link in the description. Make sure to check them out. So close. Get them there.
Thank you.
Get them there.
Thanks for the shout out.
Of course.
Also, I backed it for a mug, so if this doesn't reach its funding goal, I don't get my mug. So
Oh man.
make sure I get my mug.
Thanks for that as well.
I was waiting for my YouTube money to get in so I could there's some cool stuff that's still available for pledge rewards. Where was it? I was looking at the skull one where you design a skull. I'm like, oh man, getting a skull with a mustache on it? A Relyea mustache skull?
I will make you a skull.
Oh my gosh.
Regardless of you pledging, dude.
Oh no, I can't just take it.
You want a Relyea skull? I can do that.
Oh my gosh, no. I feel like
so easily.
yeah, I'm gonna pay for a Relyea skull. I can't ask people to donate and kickstart your game and I don't even pledge anything to it. No. I'm gonna make it happen. There's a lot of, you got a lot of cool rewards and stuff. In fact, this is something where I'm gonna ask about later. Like there's all these things that are locked away. I want to know it's locked. It doesn't say
those things. I've been teasing them in my Discord, and I really want to just tell everyone what they are, because some of them are really cool.
Yes.
But I can't get them hyped if it would be selfish to get them hyped and then not actually be able to make them.
Well, I'm gonna ask you in a little bit, so get ready to
Okay.
get ready to duck, dodge, dive, dodge. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. How do you get the idea for the map layout? Is it pre-planned from the start? Which it sounds like the obvious answer to that by now is no. And do you add things as you go on with the creation of the game? And the answer to that is yes. But how much of the map? Let's, because you kind of already touched on this a little bit. How much of the map do you think is like kind of planned out early on versus how much of the map is just kind of freeform changing, just trying to dial in how the game feels. And I believe we're on Jordan for this one.
So like we've discussed, you kind of want your abilities, and once you've got your abilities down, then you want to obviously start working on the world and the map. At least that's how I see it. And for me, I had this huge piece of paper where I tried to like plot everything, just because I'm used to working on paper more than a computer. I tried to do it on a computer, but it's just like, after looking at a screen for so long, you kind of want to go back to paper sometimes.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I had like this, I had pretty much, I think you kind of go from top down. So it's like from the very high level, like down to the details. So you kind of have your areas more or less aligned, how you think they would fit in the world. Like, for example, in Haiku, everything kind of has its place for a reason. So like, everything it connects and like works as like this big kind of almost like an ecosystem sort of thing. And then after that, you kind of start thinking, okay, where do I want the player to start? Where do I want them to end? Where do I want like story bosses, like whatever elements, other elements that you have in your game, you start plotting on the map as well. And then after that, you can go more in detail, but I think you still need to leave like a lot of room for change, because the rooms and the level layout and stuff like that are all going to change. But one thing that you kind of do want to get early in is your golden path, what they call. So it's basically like pretty much the straight point from like start to finish sort of thing. And for a metroidvania, it's a little bit more complicated, because usually it's like jumping around the map and going backwards and forwards. But once you've kind of got that in place, then you can start adding like little detour routes and other bits and bobs that, you know, hopefully if you add power-ups or items that you can find, other sort of stuff like new map pieces, which are becoming kind of common in Metroidvanias now. So like all of that sort of stuff, you just add to your golden path, I think.
Interesting.
So it's a kind of a crappy answer, I guess.
Yeah. The golden
I don't know.
path. So also one thing I want to ask, and this is coming in addition to this, will there be more than one path for completing the game, or is there kind of one true way for your game?
So also what I did was I made a flow chart. So you have like this whole flow chart where the player starts. It's not related to the map. Well, you probably could actually just transfer and lay it on top of the map, but I kind of used those two things side by side. So I have this flow chart where it starts the kind of ability sequence, and then at one point it kind of branches off. So like at the beginning, you kind of want to hold the player's hand just a little bit as they're getting used to the game, the mechanics, the world, etc., the story, and then you want to slowly like let them go. So the way that I've done it is just you give them like a set of mechanics in a specific order. It makes our lives a lot easier to kind of design the world and how the players can interact with the world that way. And then I give them like, okay, now 2 possibilities of mechanics they can get. And then it goes to 3 possibilities, and then it comes back together at the end. So it kind of like branches off a little bit. So you have this sort of feeling that the player can go off and onto his own adventure. So like, you know, if 2 friends are playing a game, then, you know, it's like, oh, I did this or I did that first and stuff like that.
Yeah, honestly, I absolutely love that kind of stuff. There's so many games that are like they would have been just a little bit better if I felt like I had just a little bit more agency. And I don't know, just playing games that go from point A to point B with like, this is the one way to do it. And if you didn't remember, there's that one ledge you had to double jump and double back to. It's just like, that's not fun. I like kind of exploring and getting lost, and if I stumble in the wrong direction, I don't want to be completely penalized for that. So no, it's really, really good to hear.
Also, I've tried to have like at least 2 access points to one specific, like one critical upgrade or something like that. So there's always just more chance that you will like accidentally stumble upon that upgrade.
you know?
I agree with that. I call them circles. So that like
Mhm.
the second advantage of what you're saying, that it doubles the chance of finding something.
Mhm.
It also means that if you find something, you don't have to backtrack when you've got that thing. You can just carry on and you'll end up where you were. 'Cause you're working in loads of little circles in the map, you always, it feels like you're always going forward, even if you end up back where you were.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you said that, man, because the amount of circles that I've got, I was starting to thinking I might have too many.
Good stuff. Alex, how do you? Let's see. Yeah. How do you get the idea for the map? And is it like it? Does it kind of build itself once you have the the core mechanics down? It sounds like you're more so like get the core mechanics down, and then the map will kind of figure itself out once you kind of figure out what feels good. Is that? I don't know. What do you think?
So like the way I've thought about and approach this is like in my head, map and level design / level layout, although they are part of the same system, they're two separate things I consider, I guess. In that, level design, strictly speaking, would be more of like the geometry and / like the power-ups that we're talking about, whereas map layout, I think, to take it back, I liked something that Jordan said, which was in Haiku, he's got this ecosystem. So for us, it's more like, when I'm talking about map, it's like, imagine I just drew a bunch of rectangles on the screen, and I was like, so I'm going to start using things that clearly won't, well, or maybe they will be, but I'm just going to throw out names. Like, let's say, my town is over here, my library is over there, my ice cream shop is over here, like throwing that kind of stuff out and just being like, well, in the perspective of building like this, let's call it like city, where would an ice cream shop be in relationship to a library? Where would the police station be in relationship to whatever? And that's where you kind of like build up what I would call the map, so that the ecosystem kind of makes sense and the world is believable to you, which cognitively should register back to the player once they're trying to navigate their way through it, being like, oh yeah, I was here and I remember this, like I remember the police station is next to the ice cream shop. So they'll kind of have this idea of navigational flow in their head that is separate than the geometry that we're talking about when it comes to level design.
Okay.
So that's what I would refer to as map layout, and we've got something like that structured, and we got like, it's not stuff I can reveal yet, but we will eventually, and it'll show what the world is. But from that, you don't know anything about the level design or how these areas interconnect, but they will make sense from how would I put this, like your sewage system wouldn't be above the town, it would be like below the town, for example, things like this.
Yeah,
right? Like
that makes sense. Yeah.
that it just needs to kind of tie in that way from like an ecosystem perspective. So that's what I would consider like map layout. But then like connecting these rooms and regions together would be something that's I would consider like a completely separate art form or task in its own right, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of how we approach that in terms of the world building. That's what I would call the map layout, and that's kind of how we approach it.
Interesting. Stevie, what do you think? How do you approach the map building?
So with the overall map, it's still kind of up in the air. I have zones planned out which I want to make, but like anything other than like the area, the general area that I want it's all kind of up in the air. But when it comes to actual level design, I work backwards from a boss fight. So I will actually make or design the whole boss fight first of a zone. Like that's the boss you'd probably kill at the end of that zone, right? And then I will work out what I need to teach the player to kill that boss, and then I'll go back through the level design and make sure I'm teaching that player the things to kill the boss. So for instance, like the Rat Queen is one of the first bosses, is the first boss actually, and it's got a move that drops things from the ceiling. So then I have to teach the player that about dropping from the ceiling and to check for the ceiling. So I'll add a mechanic earlier on in that level where things drop from the ceiling. Something simple like that to make sure that the players kind of expects to have to dodge that in the boss fight when it happens, and that kind of dictates my level design for that whole zone.
Interesting. That makes sense. To make sure it all builds and flows together.
And for the second boss, it shoots lasers, right? So I had laser enemies, and then because I'm adding laser enemies, I'm like, it's fun to dodge lasers while doing parkour. So then I'll end up doing like a section where you have to hide from a boss and climb up a wall while dodging lasers, because that's going to teach you to stay away from the lasers in the boss fight. So it kind of dictates itself that way.
Interesting. Let's see. So I want to know, what do you find more difficult, animation or programming the game? And let's see. I can't remember if we started off with. I think we started with Jordan last. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's
Alex.
go. Yeah, let's go, Alex. What do you find?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I feel like this is probably just a more personal question.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like I don't do I have not written a line of code for Crowsworn. Like the only thing I'll do is from like experience. If we're having a discussion, I can kind of structure it from a pseudocode perspective, being like, oh, the right way to probably do this would be to drop a for loop here, do a switch statement, whatever. Just like I can, I guess, talk the lingo from code perspective.
You just
but I'm
blew
not
my mind with those
writing.
two statements right there. I have no idea what you're talking about. What, like, whoa.
I'm just happy I knew them.
Yeah, me too.
I know nothing. Oh my gosh. Like I know if this then that and some basic stuff, like, cause like if you don't know, like I'm also in the Air Force Reserves and I fix military aircraft and I fix like radios and radar, and we had to learn like very basic of like how electricity works, and we had to know like NAND gates, and we got tested on this
Right.
random stuff that we don't even use. It's like yeah. Anyway, but that's not something I've ever heard of or used.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah, no. So I mean,
so you sound pretty smart, is what I'm saying.
sounds smart. Eh?
Yeah.
I just have tools, I guess, but I'll take a compliment, I guess. But yeah, no. So I would say it's project dependent, and I wouldn't say necessarily what's harder difficulty is the right right variable to evaluate it, I guess. The way I would approach it is like what takes more time, I guess, because I wouldn't say either or of those things are, at least for me, necessarily difficult. They just take more time, and depending on the project. So for Crowsworn, I would guess wholeheartedly that animation is probably the more time-consuming element of it, just due to like the I don't know if the fidelity would be the right choice of word here. I'm trying to be as precise as possible, I guess, but it would the way the sprites are rendered, let's say that way. Whereas something like when I was working on Unworthy, animation might be much lower in terms of like the time consumption associated with it relative to code. Whereas, again, I think I mentioned this last time in the interview, Unworthy and Crowsworn may very well, like relatively speaking, have similar amount of code, if that makes sense, in terms of lines and stuff, just because they are metroidvanias, so the bulk of it's the same. So yeah, in the case of Crowsworn, I would say animation is probably the more time consuming component.
Okay.
That's all I can say. I can't say one's harder or easier than the other, and it really comes down to being like your own experiences. Somebody who doesn't do animation and does all code would presumably have a much easier time
Yeah, fair enough.
coding, and yeah.
So I'm actually really interested to see how our other two guests answer this one, because they're more doing it on their own. Yeah. So what do you think, Stevie?
So, yeah, because it's like a personal thing. It's way easier for me and Jordan to answer, because we're not kind of answering for a whole team, but just like personally, whether we're good at art or good at code. With me, I think the code is probably easier. That's the whole reason I procedurally animate the legs of my main character, because I couldn't really draw a run cycle very well, so I just ended up doing it through code. So yeah, I'd say code. Code is easier. Well, easier for me because I've got more experience in code than art. So
The leg movement is procedurally generated, so I've got a rough idea of what procedurally generated means. It's like, okay, based on like whatever's happening, it will like kind of it'll
So-
make something happen. Wow, that's a really terrible explanation.
Well, it works. So when the player's moving, or even when the player's still, for that, if I have like 4 tentacles, and the tentacles will choose a location that they'll try and stretch towards, and that location is constantly updating. So if you're moving right, and the tentacle can't reach where it's trying to reach, because now that tentacle is it's trying to reach left because your character's moved right, it will then choose a new location, and that new location will have to be contacting the ground, and then this
Okay.
animation will make it reach towards that new location. And it's just a way of making, it's called inverse kinematics. I didn't code it myself, I used the package, disclaimer. But it's just a way of animating something through code rather than visually kind of drawing every single frame.
Super interesting. I like whenever I think of procedurally generated, I'm not gonna lie, I think of No Man's Sky, and I think of procedurally generated planets in a very, very vast solar system. I've never even thought of like it being.
I think
for
I'm using that
legs
term
used.
right. I think procedurally just means through code, right? These guys would probably know better.
It sounds right.
I think so.
Yeah,
So,
no, you're good.
Yeah. Good.
So, yeah, Jordan, what was easier or harder or more time consuming, less for you?
It's it's personal, right? Like from
I've
my
seen
experience,
you zap through. I watched you do a live stream where you're making the pixel art, and you're just like ta 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 ta, and you're like doing it frame by
Yeah,
frame.
so-
You're making it look easy.
So I think like when you start a game, and especially if you're learning, like when you're not very experienced with this sort of stuff, is you have to find out what your strengths are and work to your strengths. So like I've been drawing pretty much my whole life, so that was kind of, I would say that's the easiest for me. But again, I mean, that's just super personal, right? Like somebody who hasn't been drawing their whole life will probably say code is easier. But for me, I really don't know like what's more difficult. I think they both can be difficult, and then other times they both can be easy. So the joy that I have is I can just switch between both. So like if I get tired of drawing an animation, because sometimes these animations, they just don't work for some reason. Like you try and try, you tweak and tweak, and you're just not happy with it. I usually go and do something else. So I'll do some coding, like code a new system for the game, or like make the shop, which I think I'm gonna do this week, and stuff like this, you know. And then once you go back to the animation, it's like you just either completely scrap it, or you can immediately see what's wrong, and then you could kind of tweak it and make it look better. So I don't know. For me, it's hard to say. They both can be difficult at times, and then other times they can be kind of easy. Just depends on the mood.
Got it. Makes sense. Makes sense. Let's see. How did you learn game dev, and what resources did you use along the way? Stevie. So yeah, I know we kind of talked about history a little bit before. So as far as like you kind of did the development, and as far as like netcode and you did a little bit in school, but more specifically, like what resources are you using now to develop your game? Let's go with that.
Okay, so when I was learning, and if you're really, really new, I just recommend YouTube tutorials. Like literally follow tutorial on someone making something simple in the engine you want to use, and just copy them. And then eventually you'll get to the point where you can branch off from that tutorial and make your own thing.
And
but
do you have any favorites?
I would,
like anybody, any names stick off the top of your head?
Wizardy was the guy I initially learned off. I think his YouTube channel has just disappeared though. I don't know what
Okay.
happened to him. And then Sean Spaulding's good too. There's a bunch, like any game maker. There's like a 5 or so really big ones that are really good. All of them are great. But you just Google them and you'll find them, or YouTube them and you'll find them.
Good stuff.
I can't remember what I was saying now. Oh yeah, so the resources I use now, that would be Well, I don't do sound, right? I'm bad at sound, so I use freesound.org for sounds and modify them. Any commercial free sounds, or zapsplat.com is another one for sound. I use Asprite for pixel art. What else do I use? JuiceFX for cheap animation when I'm lazy, when I don't want to have to do it frame by frame. And I think that's everything. And of course, Game Maker, but that's the engine.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Jordan? What do you? So I know you had said one of the YouTube people. What was that? What was that YouTube channel again?
I forgot the question. Sorry.
Oh, what? Oh, sorry. It's okay. It's okay. How did you learn game dev, and what resources are you using along the way?
Yeah, so for me, it was YouTube tutorials, and then after that, I dabbled. Like I played around with Game Boy Studio for a bit, which I think really helped me understand just how logic works, and also I found the Unity documentation, like the API scripting documentation, like super useful, because at one point you start to get a grasp on things and you start to plan out your own things, and you can go to the documentation and everything's there, so you can just read about it and then try and apply it into your project and try and use it. So my biggest resource, I think, is the Unity scripting API, because there's so much stuff that a game engine already does for you. You might as well use it, you know? So
Interesting. And Alex, how did you learn game dev? Well, like you said, I guess you're getting more into like the art and different things like that. So what resources have you been using to either keep yourself sharp or to learn as you're going?
I mean, I think my start with it was very similar to Stevie's there. I'm just gonna do like a shout out here, I guess, to like a buddy of, well, we're good friends now, but at the time when I started, it was just me like looking online. So I learned a lot of my stuff from this guy Heartbeast.
Heartbeast was another one. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Like Ben's a super cool dude. I remember I bought his like PDF Game Maker book, and I told myself, you know, I know some stuff about coding, like I've done this before, but I'm going to go through this book from beginning to end, not skipping anything, complete all the tasks, regardless of how trivial or simple they might be, just to be like, listen, I'm just going to go through it as it was intended for somebody who knows nothing. And I went through it, and the interesting part about it was, as I was going through it, I started noticing like some bits of his, like, I guess, tasks in there, or tutorials, whatever you call them, in the book, that I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. And I emailed him, and I was like, hey man, I think you have like a mistake here. And he looked at it, he's like, oh yeah, you're absolutely right, like that doesn't make sense. So I was like, cool. I was like, oh, that felt good. Like I was able to call out a mistake, because that means I actually have understanding, as opposed to just like going through it.
That's
and
awesome.
We just kind of ended up, yeah, so it was very I guess gratifying to do something like that. And then we just ended up chatting for a bit, and like now we're like pretty good friends, and just chat reasonably regularly. But I'd recommend him. I'd recommend Sean Spalding as well. In terms of animation, though, jumping to that now, I guess, is a game dev thing, just to go on a tangent. I don't think I've necessarily spent a lot of time like learning it from anything in particular. I'm mostly like leveraging my engineering background, in the sense that when I animate, I think about the flow of forces through bodies. So it's more like in my head, I think about how something would turn or pivot based on like, strictly speaking, like a physics perspective. So it has really nothing to do with like, I know a lot of animators do the thing where they kind of like learn things by seeing them, and then eventually it's like, oh, every punch, like you roughly learn the positions and poses. And for me, it's not like really that way. I kind of approach it from a first principles basis, which is probably quite different, and I would say I haven't met many people that do it that way. So
especially the Crowsworn, he's got like a cape, like a lot of movement and flow.
Yeah. So yeah, capes are fun. I mean, cloths kind of work like bodies flowing through liquid, I would say, which is interesting.
Do you ever record yourself?
Do I record myself what, animating?
Like doing certain movements so you can like visualize yourself after, like how you would animate it to the character?
No, I've never really done that. I think I've kind of, when I was first starting, like back when I was doing Unworthy, I would sometimes get up out of my chair and sort of like position my body to think about how these poses might look. And I never really did the recording thing, but I just kind of like observe where my leg was or where my arm might be. But I think that was when I was doing that, the issue was when I was drawing the bodies, I had the issue that I never broke it down into primitives, which is something I do nowadays. So it's like arms I will treat as cylinders or like ideas like that in my head before I proceed to doing too much detail with it. And then when I break it down into its like base components, it's a lot easier to understand how the relationship between the individual components will relate to one another when you're turning them in 3D space, or I guess it's 2D plane but 3D space in your head. So that's kind of how I approach it now, I guess.
Yeah, those are those cheap animations that I make that my partner dislikes.
Which ones? The poses ones where you
like it just using like primitives, like you kind of just get the kind of general idea and like maybe some keyframes in place, so you know, like you can see how the animation will roughly look like, and then the first thing she says is the animation doesn't look good, and you're like,
oh man,
damn it.
With animation, I'm like, there's this one random game called I don't even know if I should do a shout out, but whatever. There's a game called Ink. I don't know if you guys have ever like seen it. That's just like a little square dude that jumps, but it's got like this squish and squash and like bending and stuff, and it's a square that still looks very nicely animated. So it just like is a testament that it's like you don't necessarily need like cool shapes and bodies to make things look good, like they're traveling through space. Like a square can look good, so it's interesting.
This game looks awesome.
I have to Google it now.
So yeah.
Also, when you mentioned it's 3D space in your head, that's something I didn't. It sounds so simple, right? But I didn't consider it for so long when I was kind of learning how to do pixel art. I just thought pixel art's 2D, and it made it really hard to kind of draw things or like shade things, because I kind of forgot that things are 3D and I just pillow shaded everything.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, pixel art's I think like I've done the pixel art thing, so I think pixel art has a lot of traps set up for you in terms of like kind of, I guess, the way you might color it or shade it. It's just like the nature of the medium. So like with pillow shading, stuff like that, it's easy to fall into that sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, so kind of on a similar note, how are animations created? Is it done like Unity? There's this is man, I feel like I'm so, I don't know if dumb is the right word. I feel like such a noob because I know so little. I literally don't even know like what is in Unity. Like you don't create animations or pictures and stuff in Unity. Like you have to pull in like either Blender or Photoshop. Is right? How do you create animations? I think we're starting with Stevie. And you're not using Unity. Excuse me. You're using Game Maker. But yeah, how do you do that?
Yeah, it's fine. I think everyone here uses frame by frame animation. So the way we would do it is we would literally draw every single frame that you'd see. Like if you're videoing a film, right? And it's 60 frames a second, you do it. You draw 60 frames and then play them all. So you'd have to draw every single frame individually.
In what program? Like, cause like
I
you
use
don't
Ace
draw
Drive because it's
in
pixel
Game
art.
Maker.
Some can use Photoshop. It's anything that you can draw. You can use Paint if you want, and then whatever engine you're using will kind of align them to play frame by frame, and it makes it look like motion.
Got it.
There are different ways, obviously, to animate. When we say frame by frame animation, that's what we mean. But there's also like if you're in 3D or even in 2D, you can do it, where you kind of tell the limb to go to rotate 90 degrees, right? And it will spit out, I don't know, 30 frames of it rotating 90 degrees. So there's like shortcuts you can do when it's not frame by frame. But yeah, it's a complex subject that I don't really know too much about because I was more of a code side of things. I think Alex will probably have some good insights.
I'm waiting to hear what Alex says as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
fair enough.
Yeah, I do like these traditional sort of. I don't know if you've ever seen like Disney how they animate, where they have like these papers where they kind of
Oh yeah, they're
lap
just like
them over
flipping
each
back
other
and
and
forth
draw.
over and over, and like, yep. Oh, just one more. Yep. Okay. Yeah.
That's basically how I do it with pixel art. So it's like obviously now it's a bit more modern than using paper and tracing paper and stuff like that. You have programs, but that's essentially what I use. But like Stevie said, you can go into like different types of animation where you can just move the limbs, and you say like, okay, by this time it needs to be at this position, and then over the course of like a second it will move to that position and stuff.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, Alex, how are you doing? How are you making animations? How are you doing this?
Yeah, I would say I agree with Jordan and Stevie. Mostly there, like the bulk of I use Photoshop just because like the game art is HD, and there's a few of the like filters in Photoshop that I use to just kind of like achieve the smear frame. Oh, so I should probably say what a smear frame is. It's like the transition, typically speaking, the transition frame between like a pause, a heavy moment of action, and the pause that follows. So like
It's kind of like that blur, like motion blur when you're like moving
Correct.
real fast. Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that. It's like when you go from point A to point B like super fast, you kind of like make the whole frame like messy because the person only perceives it like one out of these, like let's say 24 frame per second rate. So it's like boom, just flashes there, and it's creates that illusion of fast movement. So there's a few things in like Photoshop that they have like filters, like the motion blur and stuff like that, that I just kind of apply after I draw the frames as they would look without it, because it just kind of helps sell the whole thing, and it looks nicer, I guess. So basically, I do exactly what the other two guys have mentioned. In terms of Photoshop, the only thing I would say where we occasionally, there's very, very few things in the game. We haven't even like really shown any of this publicly yet, but there are a few things that are animated with it's a blend between what they're referring to as, I guess, the kind of like mapped motion or whatever you want to refer to. Like we're not using Spine or Blender or anything, so it doesn't have like an XML file that tells you where the weighted components of it are moving or anything. It's just like strictly speaking in Unity, we've kind of moved. They have like a built-in animation thing as well, I think, in there, and it's just like moving the arm, like let's say 30 degrees, but apart from also moving at 30 degrees at a certain point in that animation, we swap out the sprite as well. So the angle of the arm, for example, would look different for that lighting. So it's like a juxtaposition of the two things.
Holy moly.
So we haven't shown any of that stuff yet, but it is like like that too. So there's two things in there, I guess, happening.
Like I'm just thinking about, the amount of effort that takes just to.
Yeah, it's a bit of like.
I was thinking the opposite. I was thinking about how much time it could save.
Oh
no,
yeah.
Like drawing different sprites and different angles with different shading.
Yeah.
My eyes kind of glossed over a little ways through, and I'm like, I don't understand, but I'm gonna smile and nod.
All my skulls have 8 frames, so I can make them spin around.
Oh man.
Yeah, so yeah, that one's it's not something that's practical, what I'm talking about there. It's literally just like a few select locations that are more like vanity pieces, I would say, in the game. It's like eventually you get bored of stuff and you're like, I want to try something new, and then you're like, oh man, it's like more than I wanted to do, but at least it looks good. So
yeah, I find that, right? Like you kind of get bored of doing like the work that needs to be done sort of thing. And then you go off like
on a little tangent,
on a little detour, and you think, you know what, this is completely not needed and unnecessary, but it looks good, and eventually it adds to the game, right? But
yeah,
unless you add a whole dancing mechanic.
Yeah, well, I mean, like speaking of those detours and stuff, like the team and myself, there was that one week where we were like, you know what, we're just gonna make a karting game, like screw this, and
I saw that. I was just
and
like,
then we were like,
wow.
let's just like do it, and Matt was like, wait, what? And I was like, I don't bet, let's just go. So, Yeah, that was detours are fun. We were all like exceptionally energized after that though, so I do
That's
think it's
good.
occasionally like healthy to take some sort of like cognitive breaks, if you will.
Totally.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
man.
pretty much why I added the dancing mechanic to Zapling Bygone, was just because I was bored of doing what I was doing, and I just added a ridiculous dancing mechanic for the fun of it. And it's actually probably going to make it to the main game now, even though it's ridiculous.
No, it's I think that stuff is I also think that's the stuff that gives character though. It's like things that indie developers will do that AAA like studios probably wouldn't, because I can't imagine how that meeting would be in a AAA studio. Somebody would go into the boardroom and be like, listen, we need to make our guy dance, and they'd be like, are you kidding me? Like, sorry, pardon my French, you know. I'd be like, no. Shareholders don't want to see dancing.
Yeah, I don't even think you could even like slip it in without somebody noticing either. So that's kind of the joy of doing it in like a small team, is you can just kind of do this kind of quirky stuff and nobody really, you know, is bothered about it.
I buffer myself about it sometimes, and I'm like, I could have made a whole zone, and I've just made a dancing mechanic for no reason. But yeah, it allows you to be creative.
Yeah.
Let's see. How do you go about? So this one might be. I don't know if maybe I could only add Alex, but maybe the other two of you guys are also looking for this as well. How do you go about finding people for your dev team? Is it mostly people you know, or seek out help specifically for it? So, yeah, Jordan, you got help with the music. Is that's somebody you know, right?
So it's somebody that reached out. And actually for music, there's a lot of composers that reach out. I respect their hustle because they reach out like, you get at least like 2 a week. I think it's pretty insane. Yeah, it's pretty insane.
Interesting. Because you're already pretty far along. So I mean, to get people reaching out now, it's like, man, you're kind of late, bro.
Yeah. I try to like be as polite as possible and reply to them and say like, I'm sorry, but there's already music for the game and stuff like that. Like that's already kind of covered. But other than that, I've only had an intern that has helped, which is just a friend of my brother's, and that's basically it. So I think Alex actually probably could give more insight to this question.
Yeah, Alex.
I think looking like, man, we've all of us. Well, I mean, like I guess Alex and myself had Alex being the other Alex, so that's awkward. But my business partner have had I think a journey in terms of figuring out how to hire people, and we've tried like different things along the way with things that we I guess thought were necessary, but I think right now for what we've kind of noticed is ultimately the biggest not even so much like skill level necessarily like out of the gates that is interesting or whatever. It's more like who is willing to I'm gonna sound terrible here, who's willing to be a little bit of a masochist at times and tolerate the troubled waters of game development, and who can kind of like weather the storm. That's kind of the people we're mostly interested in working with.
How can you even judge that though? I mean, that's tough. I mean, there's like, I personally like, I like working. I like working hard, and sometimes like it's the detriment of like I don't know. It's I put a lot on my wife, Lady Relyea. It's just like, hey, I'm working extra. I'm trying to get ahead of everything. You know what I mean? It's sometimes it's hard, but anyway, that aside, it's in a job interview or whatever, like, how do you even, I don't even know how you find that.
Well, I mean, so we've had a few people that have tried for different things, and we end up like during the time that they're kind of quote unquote like working or whatever, we end up basically paying them for whatever the rate would be for that. So it's nobody goes like quote unquote through the audition process without pay. But
that's great.
When we've done it, it's always been like I think I personally end up doing it like I'm exceptionally, for lack of a better term, like brutal in the beginning, where I will nitpick it to the very last detail, and I will see how they tolerate that. And then later it gets better.
So mean.
No, it's not mean. It's not mean. It's just like I have this very like no compromise mentality with the game. Like the team's kind of grown you used to it as well, and it's not mean. It's more like just I'm like, oh, that's pretty good, but like it needs to be better. Like that's the kind of stuff that happens. And like, okay, and I'm like, can we change this? Can we change this? And it's like if somebody's willing to iterate on it like 10 times and they're happy to do it, and they are like, oh man, I'm happier with the end result, and they feel good about it, then I'm like, that's the person we want. And eventually that like 10 iteration thing ends up like honing itself in, and they end up like nailing it on the first try. But it's like that beginning process of understanding that if things aren't right, you need to go back and iterate on them. And like, and I do this with myself too. I mean it's like we all hold each other accountable to the same level of standard, or same level, I guess, on the team. But yeah, that's kind of, I guess, what's the most important thing, I would say, because I mean, game development's not easy, because the way I look at it, it's like you go into this, you take this enterprise, this endeavor that's going to consume X years of your life. Statistically speaking, you're doing it, and statistically speaking, you will end up being in a financially worse situation than you would have been doing a 9-to-5 job at the end of it.
Yep.
And it's like, if you're not going to do this and like go full ham, then either you're a martyr or a masochist, and I don't know which is better. So like you really got to like hammer down and do your best if you're going to go down this route, in my opinion.
It's funny that you say that you have this standard, because I also feel the same, and I was kind of worrying if it's just me, sort of thing, you know, like when it's like your own game and you have like a very specific vision for the game and stuff like that, and then you know you do have a standard, like a very high standard of how things should work, how it should feel, how it should look, you know, like all of these things all need to be kind of checked off. Then I think it's not like mean to be able to nitpick. It's essentially just giving feedback to the point,
right?
So like they're on the same page as what you are, so like, you know, like you both now have the same set of standards. And like you said, you know, like next time they work on a piece, it might only take like 2 revisions, and then eventually they might like knock it out of the park in the first one. So I think it's just feedback.
No, exactly. And the other issue is, I mean, if you release later, let's say you release 3 years down the line, and you've compromised like on every single decision along the way, and your game doesn't do as well as you expected, you're probably gonna go back and be like, I wonder what would have been if I didn't compromise. What went wrong. Right? Like where shouldn't I? But if you just do your full ham, like best thing, at the end of the day, it is what it is that you get out of it. At least you can have the peace of mind to say, you know, you did your best. This is what came out of it, and that's it. And
totally.
Yeah.
And for me, like specifically as a solo developer, then I would like, for me, I feel like there's a lot of pressure, because Hollow Knight is an amazing game, and there's no doubt about it that everybody here agrees with that, right? And
sucks.
it's such a big game with like so much content, a large world and stuff like that, and it's difficult to compare yourself with that, because you shouldn't really.
Why not?
Well, I mean, you should, because like to be honest, that is kind of my benchmark. Now, like for my game is like Hollow Knight, but I know for a fact that I can't do as much as Hollow Knight. I can't make it as big. I can't make it, you know, like the world as big and sprawn out. So I would prefer to do something that's still big for me, again? Because I won't have the time. Okay. Like you have to think as well of like how much time. Are you
saying because they have 2 people and it's just you?
I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying.
I think it's just they've made like an incredible game that if you're aiming to be Hollow Knight, you're the chances are you can't succeed. Like you have to do your own thing. You have to set your own standards. Because if you're aiming to be Hollow Knight, you're going to be disappointed. Because I'm telling you now, my game will not be as good as Hollow Knight when it releases. I would love it to be.
Oh man, don't say that, dude.
I mean, I understand you can do your best.
Yeah, I'll do my best, and it'll be. I think it'll be a great game. But if I compare myself, it's like being a football player, and if you're not Ronaldo, then being disappointed. But I can be a professional football player, and I can do my best and be really good at football. But if I'm constantly comparing myself to Ronaldo, I'm gonna end up being depressed.
Well, dude, if
So,
you're not
so
comparing
what I
yourself to
wanted to
Ronaldo,
say anyway, because we're gone off now, and I feel like we're gonna go off big time. So, like, you just have to know your limits, and going back to where if I want to try and do something big and massive, and I know that I'll stretch myself and I'll cut corners if I do that, I prefer to reduce the scope a little bit, just so I know that everything that I put into the game is with thought and intention, and like it's my 100%. Whereas like if you compromise on every little bit of the game just to try and reach some sort of idea, like I don't know, I'm kind of like going off now, but like you just have to know your limits, and I set these limits, and if I can do more, then I will do more. But like this is kind of my goal, is to make something of Hollow Knight level, but something that's tiny little bit smaller, that's within my sort of capabilities.
So real quick, so we've got the historian of Hollow Knight, if you will, Mossbag, and he says there's something important to remember with Hollow Knight. Team Cherry designed it in a way that they could stop development at any time to ship the game, and so it started out small and they just naturally grew. And so I don't think they ever necessarily intended it to be as big as it was. Although on the flip side, they also did say that they wanted to make it so you couldn't feel the edges of the game. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to say how big they wanted it to get, but yeah, kind of interesting.
Yeah, I can see that. It kind of goes back to what we were saying before, where you make it constantly releasable. So like you like the minimum viable product, and then you iterate over it and make it bigger and better until you're happy with it.
Yeah. Man, sorry, I can't. Oh man, I'm just gonna say it once, just to be my peace with it. It's just like I didn't want to have it taken the wrong way. It's just I've like met too many developers along the way that have this like the choice of words where they seem to like sell themselves short, I guess, or be like, oh, I can't do something as good as this person, or this is too big for me, or whatever. And it's just like I'm in full support of like compartmentalizing and being efficient, understanding kind of like, I guess if you want to say, I don't like the word limits because it makes it sound like you can't go beyond that. I feel you can if you want to, but like being I
and I understand what you're saying.
Practical with the choices, yeah, but like don't be like, oh, my game's not gonna be as good as Hollow Knight. Like, what does that even mean? Like, to whom? Some person might like your game more than Hollow Knight. Like,
yeah, and I understand that, but it's like a personal thing for me. It's about my own expectations, and if I set my own expectations too high, I'm gonna come out sad about it, because I hold myself to a very high standard, but a very specific standard as well. And if I start a YouTube channel and my goal is to be the biggest YouTuber, if I don't become the biggest YouTuber, I'm gonna feel sad about that. So like I have to compartmentalize like my own goals. These small steps.
Gotcha. So I mean, like, I guess if you're saying like, oh, my goal is to sell as many copies as Hollow Knight, then yeah, I could see what you're saying. Like, probably shouldn't say that because that's very like some of those factors aren't even in your control. But just to say,
no, yeah,
not
I think you're right.
Yeah,
the phrase shouldn't have been as good as, it should have been as successful as.
Well, again, even success, like what, financial success, or like you're one dude.
Monetary success.
Yeah, okay. It's just like stuff like that, man. Because it's like you have different experiences. Like Ari Gibson has been like doing animation for God knows how long. Like you're not going to compare yourself with him on that level because of like experience, but like you can still have your own triumphs and things to be that you can in your head have done better, right? Or be proud of. It's just I don't know. So, sorry, man. It's just like I've met so many developers along the way that seem to sell themselves short, and I think if you're not like set up to at least win in your own head, it's going to be hard like winning outside of it.
Yeah, I do understand that. I appreciate that. It's just I see it as I can be happy and successful aiming for a different target.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so sorry to put you if I put you on the spot or something. I didn't want to
No,
do
no, it's
that.
cool. I like
Yeah.
this. I like this kind of debate because it's interesting to see from both sides. Because a lot of people think differently when it comes to success and what they're happy with and what they're not happy with.
Oh man, I love this stuff because I'm all about it as well. Everyone's got their own standards and their own stuff that they like hold themselves up to. Yeah, again, just from a YouTuber's perspective of success and whatever else. But yeah, anyway, to not go on too much more of a tangent. Yeah, next question. Mobile games are blowing up. And even as Hollow Knight, there's a Hollow Knight ripoff. Even they've actually had to shut it down. It was like some like random like Japanese game or Chinese game is kind of crazy. Would you ever consider making your game as a port to iOS or Android? And I believe we're on Jordan. No, we did Jordan the last one. Alex.
Wait, what was the question? iOS? Or
Yeah.
mobile?
Would you ever release your game on mobile?
I don't think it's even possible at this point due to hardware limitations. Like I just don't think it would run. So
If not that, what about either Google Stadia or whatever the other cloud stuff?
I thought Google Stadia was dead, wasn't it? That's
Yes.
what I heard from somebody. I don't even know.
Very,
Okay, so-
very much yes. The answer is yes.
Okay.
So don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, we haven't. No, we I don't know. I don't think we can on mobile. Like maybe somewhere in the future when we have like super phones or something. Well, phones are already pretty good, but like,
You'd need a controller essentially,
you
right?
need a controller, and it's just like it's weird. Like, how would you even do it? You'd have to put on screen controls. Like I've tried making a platformer for mobile before when I was working in Game Maker, and it's like so hard to, it's so hard to make it feel good. Like without the tactile input, it's just so weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So the answer is, I guess, currently no.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I didn't think it'd be possible for Hollow Knight. I was surprised that there was a rip-off version of it. Yeah,
Well, it's probably not good.
probably.
Yeah.
I'm looking up this rip-off version, and it doesn't look too much like Hollow Knight. I think it's just a case of people calling it a rip-off because it's vaguely
the
similar.
one I saw was a 1-for-1. It was Hollow
okay.
Knight. I mean, it was exactly it, and it just had. I'm gonna assume Chinese.
Okay,
lettering.
I'm probably looking at the wrong one then.
And so, yeah, you'll have to ask Leth about it because I know that he had to take it down and had it was like a Hydra. Every time he tried to cut it down, it kept coming back for a little bit, but maybe it went
It's
away.
not this Bang Bang Rabbit thing, is it?
No. All right, I found it now. They literally called it Hollow Knight, like as the app
Yeah,
name,
it's Hollow Knight. Yeah,
and it's 1-for-1. So yeah,
they just put it on mobile. Yeah,
Oh, really?
that's amazing.
yeah. I think it's
How
only
they
on
did that.
Android. I don't think it's on iOS.
They had to remake the whole game, or did they somehow like?
I don't know.
Nah, I
Needs
don't know.
more.
They did it. I figure if they could do it with that, then I don't know why not? Why not?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's wild.
It's kind of scary.
Right? Yeah. Somebody just took it, and it's so easy. Like it's hard to take down. Like they haven't been able to get rid of it as of yet.
What is it? Was it on? Is it on like what kind? Was it like Apple and Android? How does it work? Because their stores can just take them down easily, right?
I don't know. Jordan, where'd you find it? Was it in Apple or iOS or
I found a Reddit post. I'll
Okay.
post it. Where do we put it? In random again?
Yeah, just
Because
go random.
where I used to work, we used to have our apps removed by Apple and Android like all the time, just for random reasons. So I'm surprised that would actually exist.
Let's see if I can get this open.
Oh,
Actually,
it's just an APK download, is it?
I don't want to. I don't know. I don't want to give it too much attention because I don't want people to
No, that's
actually go
true.
and
You're
download
right,
it and whatever else. So,
Mhm. It will crash and bug, and you'll get a virus.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious. So how much time do you get to spend on developing your game versus working on what I'll just call other stuff, which is like marketing or accounting or everything else that goes along with creating a game, Stevie?
Oh God, this question. I've been running the Kickstarter like for this month, right? And I just want to develop the game. That's all I want to do at this point.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying the competitions and I'm really loving the support. But the fun part of development, what keeps you motivated is like Mr. Morris.
Progress.
Yeah, and Mr. Morris touched on it earlier. Is if you get bored of one thing, you can switch to the other thing. If you get bored of animation, you can switch to coding. And there's a lot of hats you wear when you just switch between them. It keeps you motivated to carry on. But I've only been new in marketing. I mean, I've made some challenge rooms and I've done some bug fixes, but apart from that, I've just been marketing for the last since the Kickstarter launched and slightly before that. But yeah, it's fun and I love interacting with the community and I love doing the competitions. But that's part of me just wants to get back to developing the game.
Fair enough. Makes sense. So would you say you spent granted, right now you're in your Kickstarter phase. Once the Kickstarter phase is over, it's not going to be like that. But right now, while you're in your Kickstarter phase, you're not developing right now. You're marketing. That's your job right now, is to make this game get off the ground, right?
Yeah, because if I spend time developing the game now and I don't hit that Kickstarter goal, then I'm going to be kicking myself because I've spent time on something that is just going to disappear, or not get released, and I'm going to not be happy because I haven't been able to hit that Kickstarter goal because I spent time doing something that I shouldn't be doing.
For sure.
When it comes to after the Kickstarter or before the Kickstarter, I was probably actually 50-50 marketing and game development, which is I prefer doing the game development side, but marketing's super important in the prep for the Kickstarter. Afterwards, I plan to make it maybe 20% of my time marketing, because if you make a game and no one sees it, then you don't make a game. You're just making a game for yourself.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to separate them. To be honest, it's like managing my own time in that way is difficult, honestly.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
Jordan.
more and more, I think I want to hire somebody for marketing.
Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. We got Matt. It was a mistake. No, I'm kidding.
Man, I was waiting for that one. Don't do it.
So it is tough. It is tough.
Shoot. Man, maybe I can.
We're just depressed about marketing.
Maybe I should get into marketing.
It's just like I think for me it's exactly the same as Stevie's. Like maybe 50% before, and now it's dropped down to like 20, and just kind of taking a more chillax approach to the marketing at the moment.
But you also share a lot of stuff. You do a really good job of it, of being on Twitter and like, hey, we just added this thing, or here's a GIF, or here's a whatever, and like constantly putting out content. Or you sometimes, I don't know if you're still doing it, but you do like a live stream of like, hey, I'm doing animation. I'm just doing it. But if you got questions, I'll just plug away and answer questions at the same time. And I granted sometimes that can slow down the task that you're actually doing, because it's really hard to answer questions and do something cognitive at the same time. But I don't know, you did great.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I think it's dropped down to like 20%, and you know, the golden 80-20 rule seems to be working.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a story?
Shh. Sit. Nope. Yeah, go for it, please.
I don't know if Jordan knows this. It just made me think about it because of how we were talking about marketing. I mean, when he was marketing his Kickstarter, I think so. Before I started Zapling Bygone, and before I even thought of the idea, I just finished playing Hollow Knight, and I just got my friend to play Hollow Knight, and my friend was streaming Hollow Knight, and then he got raided by Taco Ralph. No, not Taco Ralph. Taco TV.
Taco TV.
Yeah. And I started following Taco TV because I was watching him play Hollow Knight, and it was fun. And then he played Mr. Morris's game, which is Haiku.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, he's done the Hollow Knight style movement, and then I was like, maybe I should give that a try. And I made a game, like you saw in that GIF earlier. I made just movement, Hollow Knight type movement, like genericness, just because I wanted to test if I could do it. And then that turned into Zapling Bygone. So I actually owe my start of Zapling Bygone to Mr. Morris and his marketing, because I probably wouldn't have even started the project without seeing him on Taco's Twitch channel.
I'll take 50% of the profits.
Modest 50.
All right, 49. There you go. You can keep the majority.
I'll take the old Apple 30.
Well, then he's losing with nothing.
That's cool to hear, man. Makes me kind of teary-eyed.
Was it like that shows that marketing? It sounds like a bad thing, like it's a bad word, but you also inspire people to make new things too, because people see you and they're like, I can do that too. So it's not like an evil thing. It's just gonna get boring sometimes.
I think the way that I use marketing is to build a community. Like that's my number one goal. Is just I love like interacting with people. I feel like I'm quite social in that aspect. So like if people have ideas and they're talking about your game and stuff like that, it's just such a great feeling, and it's something that I think you should cherish and like work on, like making sure that it's maintained and it keeps existing.
Yeah, and I don't really consider the community side as marketing, because like interacting with the community in Discord and doing the competitions, that's just plain fun. I just really enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember where we were with the questions. I kind of derailed it a bit. I apologize.
Okay. How much time do you get to spend developing a game versus working on other stuff? You guys did great. I think Alex, I don't know if you answered that one.
I don't even know how to answer that. What is? Yeah, I don't want to be the guy, but like, what is developing versus even other stuff? Is other stuff just marketing? Is that what you mean?
Marketing, accounting. I mean, I imagine there's a lot of other hats, like
projecting.
By the way, I am an accountant. In case you, what's up? Hey, other stuff, managing. I don't know, in anything that's not directly working on your game. That's why I'm throwing in the sorry for smacking the microphone.
Like,
the other bucket.
Like if I'm in the shower coming up with ideas, is that a part of development?
Definitely take that out of your tax, your water bill.
No, I'm just like
I understand. Like you at some point the game becomes all consuming. That's kind of how I get with my YouTube channel. I'll be out with the wife. We're having dinner, and I'll be like, "What do you think if I did a video on this?" And she's just like, "Are you serious right now? It's Mother's Day. Stop asking me about your YouTube channel."
Or better yet, when she's like, "What do you think about my hair?" And you're just looking straight into that blank canvas in the front. And you're like, "Wait, sorry, did you say something?"
Yeah. Oh man.
But yeah, man, I don't know. Like, well, whatever that question was, I guess it's like I really think it depends on the phase you're in with your game and what's going on, and kind of like Stevie and Jordan already said, it's like I guess with now with Kickstarter, it sounds like a lot more of his time's going to be like, oh man, just like pump out visibility of content for people to see and interact with it, which is kind of takes time to plan and put together, which is again, it's just like I guess that's with like, is that marketing or is that engaging with a community? I have this it's funny, I have this like talk with Matt sometimes about like what is marketing, because a lot of people that we've met along the way are like, oh, marketing's gross, and he's like, man, I'm a marketer. And I'm like, I don't know. I think the stuff that, sorry, this is like a bit of a tangent, but like I tell Matt, I'm like, I don't think you do marketing. Like what he does is not necessarily marketing. He's like a dude that interacts and engages with people, and it's like very ground game. To me, marketing's like this icky manipulative term that larger corporations or publishers do, where they try to trick you into believing that you want their product.
into
Yeah,
thinking
like
of what you're
clickbait.
going to get. You like, oh,
Yeah.
this game it could be this, but and they're like baiting you into thinking, okay, the game could be that, and then it's not that when you buy it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know how
that's
to describe
I
it. It's
worked
just-
in marketing, and for me, that's just bad marketing.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's
that's
good
basically maybe that's
marketing,
what
and
it
then
is.
there's
Yeah,
bad marketing.
but yeah, maybe.
I think that just these days, as people is understandably so bored of like seeing adverts. Like you can't open the fridge without seeing an advert, and I think they kind of
Well,
put that negative thought to
yeah,
every kind of marketing.
and I think it becomes obvious when the person behind, if we're gonna treat a game like a product, when the person behind the product is generally not like interested in it, and it's like it's this weird like disconnect where if the person who's peddling the product, the only thing they have is themselves, a giant gap, and then money at the end of it, it becomes like very obvious that that's the person peddling the product, as opposed to someone who's not thinking about the money at the end of it, and just like, for example, you just want your game in people's hands because you're proud of your work, you want to
Yeah.
talk about it, you want people to engage with it, and that becomes very I would say different than, and yeah, sorry, that's like it's a weird, I
It's like
totally
you
derailed
strip
it
out
for you. Yeah,
you strip out like the passion from
exactly.
from marketing, and then it just becomes you trying to you become a salesman rather than a someone who's marketing.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it's maybe that's what it is. I don't know. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, yeah, just digressed, but yeah, I don't know. I think it really depends on the products or in the games. Jesus, products. In the games like development cycle where you are and what you're doing and what kind of like asks you to do. Because I suspect when we start doing our Kickstarter, we're probably also going to be a lot more committed to just like pumping out content that's stuff that backers or people who are interested in the game would want to see, as opposed to kind of like the streamlined flow that you should have if you want to just finish the game, right? So I think it depends where you are and what you're doing, but
Makes
yeah.
sense. Let's see. So all three of you guys' games, they're all Metroidvanias, right? What makes your game different, better, unique compared to other games that are similar or within the genre?
Oh no, this is hard.
Right? Honestly, I can't remember who was last. I'm getting foggy because I've gone through the list so many times.
Fix your marriage.
My marriage? What do you mean my marriage?
Crowsworn will fix your marriage.
Oh, it's from Mossbag. For Leth, probably. That's true. Maybe Crowstorm could fix my marriage.
Stop recording YouTube videos in the shower.
Lady Relyea. Oh, she's not right there. All right, she's lucky. Or maybe I'm lucky. Oh man. It's an important part of breakfast. It's true. I don't even know what that means.
I think this is like a difficult question, right? Because it's like gamers sort of think that they want always bigger and or better and this and that, when really they actually like kind of the similar type of games that they play.
Very much
So
so.
if you're into like city builders and strategic games, then you're more likely to play a strategic game than a platformer, right? So like this question kind of bugs me a little bit because it's always kind of pops up somewhere, and it's like it's not better, it's just different, you know. It's the similar sort of game because it's a Metroidvania after all. Like that's what happens when you have a game in a genre. They have the similar kind of tropes, but like it's different. It's a different experience. It has different characters, it has different story, it has different abilities, you know, world setting, all of this sort of stuff, and you're still going to get that Metroidvania vibe, but you're going to be, you know, it's going to be a completely new world for you to explore. And I think that is the best part of a Metroidvania, is like, you know, a new world to explore and a new world to get lost in. So that's my answer for it.
Ooh, I
I
like it.
don't think I can beat that answer, to be honest. It's pretty much everything I wanted to say.
Yeah,
So what seems similar to this is like when Call of Duty comes out, whenever there's something that's like completely like left field with Call of Duty, and it's just like, wait a minute, that's not what we wanted. It's just like, wait, you want more of the same, but it's Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know. It's
I mean,
people want something that's familiar, but they also
Right.
want something new. But if it's too new and too unique, sometimes it doesn't necessarily hit right.
I
Yeah.
could go into like the details of the things that my game has that's different from Hollow Knight or different from other Metroidvanias, but at this point that just kind of seems pointless because there's going to be so much different for all our games that it's
Yeah.
kind of just nitpicking specific things is weird.
Fair enough.
I'd also go so far as to bet that if you suddenly like you took one of those like I forget what they're called, like the union circles, and you suddenly started like putting like I don't know, let's say like Hollow Knight put in like Mega Man over here, so although it's not a Metroidvania, you started slapping all these together, I would be hard pressed to say that there's any game that like in the Metroidvania genre that doesn't have like a union circle with some existing games that it does its own like unique thing. Like I feel every single Metroidvania I've seen has been like a Frankenstein amalgam of other games or Metroidvanias or platformers that I've seen. Like I'm not trying to be like a guy saying that whatever, but like I truly think that the part where Metroidvanias shine is like how you put the sandwich together. It's like, do I put my lettuce on top of the cheese or the cheese on top of the lettuce kind of thing? if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
but I don't think they're it's just like how you build the whole thing. I don't think they're necessarily like you need to go out and be like so grossly unique. There's so much room to just like build on quality with the tool sets and give a different experience that I think that's kind of like what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Makes
I don't know
sense.
if anyone else. Yeah.
So Mossbag was asking another question. What do you value most from the Metroidvania genre? Or maybe if there's like one element that you find the most important. I don't know. I feel like that kind of, there's a
Because-
lot of different elements to Metroidvania. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If Mossbug's asking, then it's definitely the lore. Like the lore is the most important thing.
If anybody else is asking, I'd say it's the world and like being able to unravel that world slowly and then master it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
For me, the first layer is always the gameplay. Like if you have, but that's kind of with any game, so it's not just specific to Metroidvanias. But you can have an amazing world, but if it's not fun to explore, then in my opinion, you failed.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, they're kind of
No.
like different levels almost, isn't it? It's like you could take that question and kind of go down so many paths, like gameplay and game feel versus like specifics to Metroidvanias and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
The lettuce is just as important as the tomato.
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah. It's whatever's whatever's the weakest probably in your project at the time is the most important to fix. I guess it's like you don't want a rotten tomato in there. I guess or whatever. It's kind of
Someone just joins the stream. They're like, "What the hell are they talking about?"
Yeah.
Tomatoes.
No, it's just like I was thinking about that. I'm sitting there and it's like, what is important? And I'm like, I'm just going back to like the first time I played Hollow Knight and like, what did I like about it? And it was like, well, when you jump out of the gates, one of the most important things was the sound design because you don't really even get to play when you fall down chasm. And I'm like, what captured me was like, ooh, this atmosphere from the sound. So that got me going. And then I was like, ooh, this feels good. And then it was like, ooh, the visuals are starting to pick up. And it's like, if any of those components had fallen apart, like minus even going to explore the world, I probably already wouldn't have had the same like experience pulling me in to begin with. And to compare it to something like Symphony of the Night, going way back, I feel like that's something that Hollow Knight, it's weird, yeah. To me, like I know a lot of people say this thing. It's like the comparison with like Metroidvanias and stuff, and Symphony of the Night. It's like the timeless classic. But to me, Hollow Knight is like I said, I thought it's the Matt. I'm like I think Hollow Knight is the best Metroidvania right now. To me, it's better than Symphony of the Night for sure. In a lot of ways, but.
I think you summed up the answer when you said whatever is the weakest in the game is the most important. And that kind of sums everything up because if one thing's bad in the game, it's just gonna stand out. And you've even got me thinking. Like, I need to look at my sound design because I don't think it's great. That's now my new priority.
Well, it's also not even what's the weakest. It's the consistency. That the other thing I was starting thinking about is like Undertale. I had a discussion with somebody recently about that, and somebody it was even I don't know. Somebody told me that Undertale has bad art, and it seems to be this like common like belief. And I tell everyone, like, from an artistic standpoint, it's not. It's actually exceptionally good art. It's not bad. It's just because it looks like MS Paint. The fact that the overall like canvas is consistent and the image is all like there's nothing that jarringly stands out. It's not like you have an HD image on a pixel art background or something. It's all the exact same level of quality, the exact same colors, the exact same consistency, and it creates this image of what the creator, like Toby Fox, wanted you to perceive. So it's like exceptionally well refined and controlled art.
A great example of that is Scrabdackle. It's like hand drawn and it's kind of messy pixel art, but it's all very consistent and it looks good for that reason because it's so consistent all throughout.
Yeah. So consistency, I think, is important to answer Mossback's. I know we went like way left field to answer this question, but I think
it's fun. I love just hearing you guys just kind of go on your own tangent and just go for it. Yes.
One thing I've noticed as well, because once you start making games, when you play games, you can't help but analyze certain things.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
And
sucks.
Some like and like I was trying to play Blasphemous, and one thing that really triggered me was just the pixel font. Like it was just I just couldn't read it. Like I was playing on the Switch on the handheld as well, and it was so small and so pixelated. I was just like, Jesus, I can't even read this dialogue that's going on, you know? Like, and I know they have the voiceover and stuff like that, but I actually just prefer to read. I watch like TV with subtitles and stuff. I'm a bit of a weirdo like that, but like little things like that, you just can't help but pick up, and then you're just like constantly thinking, oh my god, if that was me, I'd have made it much more readable and whatnot and stuff like that. So you could try to at least apply that to your games.
Makes sense.
I don't know, I'm a bit of a copy freak over here.
No, it makes sense because like I've written like movie scripts before. They on like series scripts. They most of them suck, but then when you're watching a series or watching TV, you kind of you see the same tropes, and you don't necessarily see things see what you could have done better, but you're kind of learning what they went with and what isn't working for like a bad TV series. Same with gaming, same with any art form, I guess.
Do you guys even just watch like TV and think about your game? Like, oh, that would be cool in my game, and you're like watching a movie?
Yeah, anything. It's at the forefront of my head non-stop, and it's going to be in my dreams. It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's happened. I don't watch too much TV these days. Well, barely any. Kids and all. So.
Fair enough. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, they take up a lot of time, those things. I'm just kidding.
How many do you have?
I got 2 now.
Child's play. I got 3. Get on my level.
I know, right?
Oh my gosh. There's somebody's always crying all day long.
Yeah.
Same. I haven't got any kids.
Oh man. All right. So if you're just joining in, if you didn't know, all 3 of the games that we're talking about have all been backed on Kickstarter or in the middle of it. So Haiku is already backed. They are in the middle. They're building a game, right? You can actually go ahead and wishlist it on Steam. Crowsworn will get on Kickstarter within 2 months, give or take. Is that right, Alex?
Yeah, I think it was. Now we're saying like 1.5 to 2 months because last time it was like roughly 2.
All right.
I think our goal is. I don't want to be held to this, but it's like end of June-ish.
There it is.
Are you releasing any?
Did you not refresh this page? Really? I swear we had more followers.
I have not. Let's see.
How long have you been?
251 to 347.
Dude, I feel like you must have had this page like sitting on your computer for days now.
No, it's just since the beginning of the. Oh, maybe it has been days actually.
Dude, what are you, stock guys?
Dude, I was preparing for this live stream for like 2 or 3 days. All right, how do you think I got all these questions? You think I did this all like just before the live stream started?
I don't know.
Shoot, I put out a community post on YouTube like a week ago. That's where a lot of these questions are coming from. That's where some of them are.
I have a question for Alex. Are you going to release anything like gameplay wise, like demo wise, during your Kickstarter, or is it just going to be like gameplay videos?
Yeah, we're not going to do a demo like 100%. I can say that. We're it's just like it's hard to answer this question. It's particularly difficult to answer the question now because I know you've put out a demo, so I don't want to made a bad decision. And I think Haiku also had a demo, so I don't want to make.
I can tell you why having a demo is a bad idea. So like, don't worry about saying
for me, it's difficult to justify with a Metroidvania. It's like, how would you show it without having people then know tidbits of the lore or like peek at the world way before it's ready? And it's almost like, I don't want you to go back to the sandwich analogy. I don't want you to bite the sandwich until it's kind of like I've prepared it, right? Like that's kind of my thing, at least with a Metroidvania.
That's the reason I actually asked, because if I didn't have to do a demo to generate hype for Kickstarter, I wouldn't have. Especially for Metroidvanias, because like the fun part of Metroidvania is becoming more powerful and kind of mastering the world and getting all the abilities. And it's really hard to give that feeling in a demo, which is like the first 20 minutes of gameplay. So that's why I was interested in seeing how you were going to do it, because you've got enough following that you don't need a demo. And if I had the following that you guys have, I wouldn't have made a demo. So it's, I was just quite interested.
Yeah, no, it's like a thing that I've talked to, I guess, a lot of like friends for advice throughout it as well. Like one of my closer friends like did a Kickstarter, like, I don't know how many years ago, like Bodhi Lee, who like did Time Spinner, and he strongly advocated to me against doing a demo off the bat. And I was just like, you've done this before, you had a exceptionally successful Kickstarter, so sounds like you know what you're talking about. So I was like, okay. And then I thought about it more, and I was like, yeah, I probably don't want to do a demo for like said reasons, I guess. If it was a roguelike, I think it's also still dicey, because it's like people are going to judge you based on the product that you're putting out there, and it probably will be a lot better later. And what I've noticed is a lot of people who are like, for lack of a better term, like game consumers, don't necessarily understand how the development cycle works, and will think that, if this is what the game looks like now, this is the quality they can expect at the end, which is very likely not true. And to take a small stab at like Hollow Knight from like a game dev perspective here, is like, if they had released a demo back when that Kickstarter was launched, I would almost certainly guarantee that game would not have been funded, because of the early videos. It is a wildly different level of quality from like game feel and everything than the final product. Like, it is a night and day difference.
Yeah, it's true.
And like, again, not to stab at it, but those early things I would say were subpar compared to the average level of Metroidvanias in that video.
Yeah, I think there was a demo that you could actually play of the game. It's somewhere. I want to say that it's in the...
Oh, I think that one was later, though, to be honest, too, because even...
Oh, and that was later.
The game feel is still there. The stuff in that video did not... Like, that was Wet Noodle Town.
Oof.
Yeah. Sorry, Matt.
The only thing that I would say is, if you're like, for example, Alex, you already have a game out, right? So that's kind of your proof, let's say, that you've done this before and you know what you're doing, sort of thing. Like, for me, it was like, how can I convince people that I actually know how to make a game? If my story on the Kickstarter page is that this is like my first sort of rodeo at this and all this sort of stuff, then I need to show something physical, like my first go at this, and I need to show something like that's actually made by me, sort of thing. So it's not just like a load of like BS, like I'm just making it up. So like, for me, that's literally the only reason why I put a demo out, is so people can play it, see that it's somewhat of a quality product, like there's no bugs and stuff like this, it's and kind of get a feel that I've actually got this and I can do this.
I mean, yeah, I don't even know if I would, like, I remember I looked at the Haiku Kickstarter, like, I think I saw it after it was finished, so I didn't see when you were actually doing it, but like, I because I'm pretty sure we would have backed it if we had seen it. But I remember seeing it before even playing the demo, and it's very like the video speaks, I think, for itself. I think people can see when things feel good. People that don't like necessarily do game development might not be able to critically analyze it, but like looking at it, I think I would have been confident backing your Kickstarter without playing a demo, because it looked thought out and well, like put together. I remember your like opening nuclear scene was like pretty like
Right.
well staged, put together.
That's the thing that sticks in my
Game
mind from that trailer.
feel like read
Thank
quite
you,
well
Akira.
as well. So I again, I don't know if in your case I feel like you would have needed a demo, but I might be wrong. Like, you know better than I do how it happened and all that. But I do think the video quality that you produced was the way it looked was sufficiently, for lack of a better term, competent that it would have generated you a successful Kickstarter.
Well, that's very gratifying to hear. Thank you.
No, that's my opinion, anyways. But yeah.
I think with in my case, the demo was a way to generate hype. It was kind of like a marketing strategy, because I couldn't get YouTubers to play a video or streamers to play a video. I had to like, give them something to play and to generate hype, because I don't think I would have got enough eyes on the project before the Kickstarter started to even to get off the ground.
Do you think you needed to make it publicly available, like for everybody, or do you think you could have just sent it out to YouTubers? And
I don't think YouTubers would have played it unless they saw it like organically. I've reached out to a lot of YouTubers and streamers and stuff, and most of them, obviously they're super busy. They don't reply just as like random indie games unless it's paid.
Mhm.
So I just don't think I would have got enough traction to even launch the Kickstarter with any confidence that it would succeed.
But how long have you been developing Zapling Bygone, anyways?
8 months, I think.
8 months, so 7 months. And did you start posting to like Twitter and social media right away?
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much.
Okay. I was just thinking, because I'm like, yeah, I guess it's enough to build a following in theory for it.
I wasn't about like I have zero experience in marketing, so I've got better as time goes on. So like the first like 4 months, I didn't know what I was doing, and then I slowly got better. So if I had someone who was good at marketing for 8 months, then they would probably be good. But
It takes
mean-
a while to build a following for sure. Like it's not easy. Even like it's cool because you're building something and you've got people who are excited about whatever it is that you're making and you're creating. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
especially with pixel art specifically, pixel art is the only art I really know how to do. But if I have one, I wouldn't call it regret, because it's not. I don't regret it whatsoever. And if I'd start the project again, I'd probably still use pixel art. But it's really hard to market a pixel art game. People see pixel art, and unless you played pixel art games before, people think it's low quality. Not everyone, obviously, but like a lot of people see it and they just think this looks like an old game. It must play bad. I just find it really hard to market.
My friends joke around, like when I share them stuff, they say, "Yeah, it looks great, but it's very pixelated."
Yeah. I mean, pixel art's weird. I think it's a very it's at least in my limited sort of experience looking at it and kind of what I've processed is it seems to be very like it's like this giant medium, but there's only certain like subsets of it that resonate very well, like and the super high fidelity pixel art is like so grossly inefficient in terms of like how expensive it is to produce, which is something that people don't get. Like I guess I'll just throw a shout out. There's this other game that I was brought on to help with level design, specifically with Gestalt, Steam, and Cinder. So if you guys want to look it up there, I don't know if Relyea wants to pull it up. It's like it's beautiful pixel art, and like one of my
I've seen that.
close friends is like the art director on it. Thomas, I don't know, he might even be in the chat for all I know, but he's like, you know, he's like a pixel art wizard, probably like one of the best, if not the best pixel artist out there. And that kind of pixel art is just like, holy moly, that is like so expensive to do, and I don't think people even like that kind of art is way more expensive to produce than like Hollow Knight even. Like, I'll just put it out there. It's in terms of like the money and what you need to pay for people to do it, and the like degree, the like super like high echelon of like pixel art people that you need to produce that kind of stuff is like they all charge a fortune. So it's like exceptionally inefficient, but this game gets a lot of hype too. Like, it's got huge traction for that very reason.
Reminds me of Dead Cells. If I had to just pick an animation style or something.
What? Oh my god, no, it's nothing like what? That's
Yeah.
nothing like Dead Cells, man.
No,
Don't say that.
totally not.
Not at all.
I'm looking at the wrong thing. Nope, this isn't what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
You mentioned it before, Time Spinner. I think that had great pixel
Did you say
art. I remember
Gestalt, Steam, and Cinder?
Yeah.
Yeah. This isn't like Dead Cells at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's expensive, and then you can go down to something like Minute, which is like the 1-bit stuff, and it resonates well with people because it's clean and the art works because it's inherently high contrast. And I think that's kind of also a similar like realm where Haiku operates and does it exceptionally well, is you have a limited color palette with exceptionally high contrast, so things are very appealing to the eye and discernible, and the elements that are interacting are exceptionally good. So I think to say that way, I think there is also a world where pixel art is easier, I think, to market, and the hashtag pixel art hashtag on Twitter is like super popping all the time.
that hashtag's insane.
Yeah, I wish we could use the hashtag pixel art.
Just add a
I mean, we're
picture.
doing fine. I don't care now, but like at one point I was like, damn it, I wish I could use it. I was using it when I was making Unworthy, and I can't leverage hashtag
So-
pixel art anymore.
Story time here.
Yeah.
I've actually used screenshots from Unworthy for inspiration for Haiku, and
That's
I looked up who was the developer, and
Okay.
I saw it was you, and then I had no idea that you were also making Crowsworn, because that was like roughly at the same time when Crowsworn was kind of popping off, let's say.
That's funny.
And ever since I found out, because I was gonna reach out to you and ask you like a few questions and stuff, but then ever since I saw that you were a developer of Crowsworn, I was like, oh no, he's in the big leagues. I can't reach out to him.
Dude, that's the
But
thing.
yeah,
It's so funny that we have this like, man, dude, I have I can't go into the details of it, but I've had like similar kind of like stories where I feel like I'm like, really, like these people talk to you, and it's like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like everyone's like normal in the game dev scene, so it's like it's weird that we do this kind of like oddly, I don't even know, like it's just a bit of a, it's like weird. It's like some kind of hierarchy in our heads or whatever, or
Yeah.
something. But it's not even like that, because I don't think it's like big leagues. Like, I think the fact, like, hey man, Haiku looks way better than Unworthy did, so you're starting at a higher position than I started when I started.
it just has more colors, but like every single
I
time,
like
like
it more, anyways.
like
It just has more colors.
more colors equals better, but I like it more.
But like the thing that I've noticed from Unworthy is you actually have a lot of layers, right? Like in the
Mhm.
background. And I'm like, I just every time I look at like some of your reference, like some screenshots for reference, I'm like, damn, I need to add more colors. I need to add more layers, more gradients to the
Yeah,
background.
it's hard to do more layers when you're limited with colors, right? Because you can't keep the contrast.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, and that's the other stuff that was one of the things that caught me the most with like Hollow Knight when I opened, and I was like, wait, what do you mean like every rock on this platform is like parallaxing? I'm like, how the hell do they even do that? Because I'm just thinking, me
Yeah.
coding in pixel art, I'm like, that would have been like 200 variables each, like applying a certain level of like parallaxing to it. I'm like, how the hell did they do that? And then I found out like in Unity, I'm like, wait, what do you mean you just drop things in the z-axis and it does it for you? I'm like, wait, damn it. Like, they didn't have code parallaxing, and
I am
parallaxing
insanely
is
jealous of
code.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
yeah. So
it's so good. Oh man. Okay, so I'm kind of torn. I've got the next question I really want to know the answer to, but I also need to use the restroom really bad, and then we'll probably be wrapping things up really quick. So I feel like I need to do like a throwaway question. Chat, ask your questions right now. Somebody needs to ask a question. I'm gonna be so quick. You guys are gonna be like, "Whoa, he's back." I'm so bad.
Just use a wireless headset, and you can.
Yeah, you guys can just join me, right? We'll pull a little. It'd be like Dr. Disrespect, but not really because it's my own house. So it's still not appropriate, but you know. I'm just trying to wait for chat for 1 second. What's 9 plus 10? Oh man, you guys are killing me.
21.
Wait a minute. It's whatever you want it to be, right? In statistics. Does Crowsworn have an official Discord?
No, not. Well, I don't know. You gotta ask Matt that. He's been like the guy who kind of tells us about this. Like, I remember at one point I was like, "Oh, let's make a Discord," and he's like, "No, you don't want to do that." And I was like, "Wait, why not?" He's like, "Just let them do it." And I was like, "Okay." And then it's kind of like, "Yeah, we're not gonna make a Discord, guys." And then somebody immediately, when we said that, somebody was like, "Okay, I'm gonna make a Discord." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I've never been in it. I don't plan on going in it.
What? You still have to go in it?
No, I'm not gonna do it for a while, man. I don't want to know what's in there. It's just
oh my gosh, no!
It's
get,
just like
get
I'm
in
tempted
there
to respond to things
talk
and
to chat.
see stuff. And no, dude, you can't talk to people because then it's like then you don't work on the game, and they want.
I'm interested to know why Matt didn't want to make a Discord.
Dude, I don't ask Matt.
Think it's a lot of work to manage. To be honest, it is quite difficult at times.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest thing that he said. It was like managing is like, no, you don't want to like do that, and they'll do a better job of managing it themselves because they know what they want. Like it's effectively for your community anyways to like do stuff. But I think there is a Crowsworn Discord one that's like got the most number of people in it. I don't know what it is though. There's an unofficial Discord.
Kind of interesting. Maybe down the line when if my game gets a bit more traction, I'll like just promote some random people in the Discord and then leave it and then join as a normal member.
Yeah, because I mean, on the Unworthy Discord, I made that one because again, I started out and thinking that's what you needed to do, and I even made the Unworthy Reddit page and stuff like that, and that's what I thought you needed to do. But then turns out that this time people just took care of it, I guess.
I wonder what like the central kind of hub is for like your marketing. Is it like I guess currently it's probably the Kickstarter follow page. Do you have like a mailing list as well?
No, the guy developing our website was like set up MailChimp, and then I talked to Matt. I was like, "Yo, so what about the mailing list? What should we use? Like, what do you need a mailing list for?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Yeah, so don't use it." And I'm like, "Okay." So I don't know. I just asked Matt. It says,
I feel like
there's not to do stuff. So.
I feel like there's always so much you can do. Like you've just got to at the end just pick like 2 or 3 things to focus on. Lazy. That's it.
That's why you get the big bucks, Matt, because you're lazy.
I feel like even for YouTubers and random stuff, like a mailing list, it makes sense if you're worried about being like deplatformed, and you're worried that you're gonna have to make a pivot and like jump somewhere else, and then you still own that relationship. But yeah, like if Crowsworn is worried about like being like having your Kickstarter shut down, and then now you can't talk to the 10,000 people, then yeah, that would make sense, right?
Yeah. The way I was thinking about it is like after the Kickstarter, the people who haven't backed but then have found out about the game after the Kickstarter, they're not in the same kind of circle as the mailing list.
Right.
It creates two separate circles. So, but I think it's harder to get people to sign up to a mailing list and follow like a Steam page or follow a Kickstarter, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I had a mailing list for Unworthy, and I mean, I could probably share these numbers. It was kind of like weird because I think I probably had like 3,000 people on the mailing list in Unworthy. I don't know how they all came there, but that's what I had. And then this might be useful information for you guys, I don't know, but like I remember when I launched Unworthy, I think I had 11,000 wish lists on it. If that helps you as a number. People seem to not talk about wish lists for whatever reason, so here you go, public information now for that one.
I'm really looking forward to like posting everything publicly data wise, because it's something that just helps everyone, right? There's no detriment to the person posting that I know of. It's just.
I mean, you just got to be cautious about some of the stuff because I think Steam's super like you can't post screenshots of the Steamworks page because that's like NDA breach stuff. So I don't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
no,
you
I
can't really
actually think
do that.
Steam's okay.
Are they now?
I think so. I think they recently changed it.
Okay. Well, if that's a thing, I know when I was doing like Unworthy, that was a thing not to do.
I think, like, obviously do your research before you go ahead and do it, like, post it, you know? Don't just take my word for it. But if I remember correctly, I think they changed it.
Okay, cool.
But if we're sharing wish list, then I'm sitting at roughly half of that amount, so about 5,600 or so.
I'm gonna log into my Steamworks.
Oh, you don't have to. This wasn't like you guys. It wasn't like a. I
You
was just
bullied us
trying
into
to tell
telling
you
us
guys that I
your
launched
data.
Unworthy with this amount. So if it helps you.
No, but it's good because that's kind of the amount that I was aiming for as well, for launch as well. So
Yeah, I'm aiming for 10k.
halfway there, I guess.
Everyone in Discord's gonna jump on that right now.
Yep.
Right now. Link in the description. Wishlist this. All right. And also, don't forget to check out the Zapling Bygone
Get it up to 10,000 already tonight.
tonight.
Yeah.
Or Haiku's mailing list.
Ooh.
Get it. Let's see, where is it? Zapling Bygone. There we go. Also, check out their Kickstarter. Boom.
Thank you.
Boom.
Yeah.
Check it. They're getting there.
Yeah. Make sure Stevie gets funded. I keep saying I want my mug. I got a mug coming. Well, one of 20 mugs. Is that what it was, Stevie? There's 20 mugs.
Yeah, they're all actually numbered as well, like on the mug, to
Ooh,
make
that's
sure
cool.
to make myself only do 20 of them. And also
Yeah.
the t-shirts are numbered as well, but you can't really see it on the picture, like numbered on the label.
Okay.
Nice.
Wait, does the mug come with a T-shirt or no? Is one or the other? I don't remember. I just know
It's
I
one or
wanted
the
a
other,
mug.
yeah.
Okay, well, I wanted a mug. I drink coffee.
So the next question is a perfect segue. Is, are there any Kickstarter goals that you really want to hit, or for Haiku really wanted to hit? Like you wanted to give that to the community, but you couldn't hit it, so you couldn't make it fit it into the game or whatever. Like, yeah. So we'll even start with Zapling Bygone because you're right here.
They're locked, right? So I
They're
don't know how much-
locked, yeah. So
Okay, I'll do two things.
Don't do it, man.
you
I've
don't
heard you
have
shouldn't. I've heard you shouldn't.
Well,
Not
one
to
of them's
say-
obvious. It's a picture of the Switch. So like that's the one I want to reach the most because my nephew has a Switch and it's the only thing he plays on.
Okay.
That's 150%. That's like the main target that I would like because like I just want to see my nephew play it. Like he designed a boss in the game, like, and for him not to be able to play it because he hasn't got a PC, it would be sad. So that's like the main thing is just hitting that Switch goal really. There's okay, no, I won't reveal. I'll take the advice.
That's what I've been told, man.
Yeah. I didn't know that was a thing to not tell or whatever.
I think it's like a gacha system. That's what I kind of understand it is. It's like you don't know what it is, and people want to like find out what it is. So apparently, don't tell people. I don't know if that's true.
I'll give a clue of one of my favorite ones. It's a method to explore the whole world without ability gates from the start.
Okay.
Doesn't sound like a clue.
It's
Sounds like you
interesting
pretty much just told us what it was. Nah, but that sounds cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like almost just playing strictly from a lore perspective. The game, like you just strip.
It'll become a really cool speedrunning category for one because you can just go wherever you want straight from the start, and it also means that the some play like kind of like how Dark Souls did it, where you can go to really hard areas straight away and just get smashed, and then learn not to go that way anymore.
Right.
Interesting.
So
I
you
kinda
still
like
have
that
to
game.
find the abilities, or do you start with all the abilities?
Oh, you're
I can't. Yeah.
All right, I won't ask any questions.
yeah.
I won't ask any questions. Spoiling it.
I'll DM you.
Okay.
There you go. So now I feel like I'm not even supposed to ask the question. I don't know, but
Well, for me, I think like I really wanted to do an alternative ending,
yeah.
and yeah, I'm seriously considering just doing it anyway. So
That is the
that's
biggest problem with these
basically
stretch
how I
goals.
feel about it.
Because you think of the stretch goals and then you get really excited to implement them, and then you don't even know if you'll be able to do them. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah, it's tricky for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'm most likely just gonna give it a shot. Like I've got it planned out, and I've got it in a sense that it's planned out that I can do kind of both. And who knows, maybe it could just be like a free content update or something, depending on how the launch goes and stuff.
Well, now I'm wondering what the question marks were. What was the other thing? Or are you gonna have to make something up?
Yeah.
Oh, you got more question marks.
You can just say like, so you don't have to say if there was something planned. Were you gonna have to make something up for this?
I was.
Okay, fair enough. I'm just.
So I mean, you have like ideas, but not like fleshed out ideas. So it would be kind of going back to those ideas and then kind of shuffling through and seeing what's kind of viable and stuff like that, and how much extra time it would cost, etc., etc.
Raj.
I wish I didn't plan them out properly because I wouldn't be so hyped to make them.
Makes sense. So Alex, now everyone else is shared.
What was the question again? About stretch
Are there any stretch goals that you're excited for, that you hope that you hit, that you're not sure if you're going to be able to add it unless you hit a goal?
So for me, it's like, man, it's completely outside of the game and stuff. I guess, man, one thing I really want for Crowsworn, and I think the team keeps hearing me say it like every day in the Discord, is like, I want plushies. I don't know why.
Like a hidden thing inside of the game, or just something outside of the game, like people can buy plushies.
Plushie, man. Yeah, I want plushies. I want a Crowsworn plushie on my desk. I don't know
That's
why.
awesome.
It's like completely like vanity. So I don't know if that's a stretch goal or what, but
I would love a Zapling fucking flash. Oh,
I will.
sorry. Hey man, it's 7 a.m. and I've been up. I woke up at 4:30, so I get one, right?
yeah. No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm just playing around.
So that's a thing I want to figure out how to do.
I mean,
yeah.
I imagine there's plenty of companies that'll do it for you, and they just take their cut of it and whatever else, right?
Well,
It depends
yes.
on how nice of a plushie you want, I guess.
Yeah. So
I imagine they're expensive. I haven't looked, but
yeah, I think we'll figure it out somehow. But yeah,
I'm gonna get a Crowsworn plushie. It's gonna be great.
that's I just want one. If they only make one and I get it, I'm happy. But yeah. So that's the thing, I guess, for me. But it's also kind of like I feel a cop out because I don't really want to divulge the game.
No,
type
that's
stuff
fair.
By talking
That's fair.
about
I'm surprised I've
stretch
only
goals,
asked one question that was like, yeah, I don't want to answer that one. I'm surprised they're well, I mean, granted, I wasn't really asking specific questions about the games up until now, so I guess I do have one other question. Why did you guys all choose Kickstarter? And I should probably start Jordan.
So if we think about like funding for games, like let's say you make the decision that you want to somehow fund your game, like, and you don't want to do like a publisher sort of route and this sort of stuff, then really you kind of have a few options. Like one of them's Kickstarter. Another one could potentially be early access, right? And there's probably some others that I can't think of at the moment. But early access for a metroidvania just seems weird. Kind of going off of what Alex said earlier about the demo, like how do you give only a portion of the game out, you know, when a metroidvania is more like the whole journey from start to end. So like if you did early access, like what would you do? Just like one sort of area and then the next area and the next area. It's just kind of a bit weird. So I think Kickstarter is attractive because it's only 30 days. You kind of have to focus a lot just in them 40 days to get the money. So it's kind of like a quick rush sort of thing, and you get the funding that you need. And also it has other benefits like building a community. I recently did some like statistics on the like how much or where my backers came from. For me personally, Kickstarter did like 50% of the work, which is insane. So like that's also, it's also just like, you know, a platform that people are familiar with, so they can go there and find out about your game. So it's also serves that sort of visibility purpose as well. So really, those were kind of my main reasons to go for Kickstarter. I don't know about everybody else here. I'm curious.
I pretty much just copied you, mate.
Yeah. What about Alex? What about you? Why did you choose Kickstarter?
Yeah, so I thought about it, and I think it was like, to sum it up, it sounds like a lot of what my theories are have sort of been like validated by Jordan's comments on his experience there. But the idea was basically that to bring it back to marketing, I think in terms of a games development cycle, it is exceptionally difficult to figure out relevant marketing beats, if you will, like things to talk about. And Kickstarter is sort of like a no-brainer in terms of like, if you get successful funding, your project is somewhat validated in the eyes of people, press, communities, etc. You build a community out of it. It forces you to sort of enter like this crunch mode that forces you to like almost develop a broad spectrum pitch about what your game is, which is kind of I find it exceptionally like difficult when somebody's like, oh, what's the elevator pitch? And you're kind of like, well, I don't even know. I didn't think about it. I'm just kind of making like this thing that keeps like almost Lego block stacking, that it's just something that it's kind of weird. It's almost like it's an expression where it's like it's not like you possess the ideas about your game. The ideas about your game possess you. It's sort of weird, and you don't even know what those ideas are necessarily until they start like manifesting in form. So this is like when you make the Kickstarter and stuff like that, it just forces you to like kind of take all those ideas and try to understand what they are and how you would communicate that to another person, which is an interesting exercise. So there's a lot of stuff that comes out of it, but it's like plain point simple. I think it's like marketing, community building, the funds obviously like help. I just didn't want to like bring them up because I think that's like obvious, like, you know, money's there.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's why you're doing a Kickstarter, right? But like, but like, why? Yeah, it's kind of like why that platform. It sounds like it's the, I don't know if obvious choice is the right word, but it seems like the way to go. There's a lot of people who are doing Kickstarters to get their games off the ground, and it's working for people who have something to show.
Yeah, and it's just like another, like a Steam page launching itself is like a marketing beat. Making Kickstarter, launching the Kickstarter, announcing that you're doing a Kickstarter, like for us was we got a huge burst of interest from that, and then presumably when the Kickstarter launches, we're also going to get another burst of people talking about it again. So it's like there's just a lot of value that comes in doing one, and it also kind of like I think puts a fire under your butt that sometimes I think needed to get the job done, which is I
like how you said like it kind of validates your idea, right? So like if it gets funded and there's interest and people are excited about it, and they, in my case, you know, play the demo, or in Stevie's case, they play the demo and they like it, then it's good. That's also like a huge benefit because you know that there's a demand for your game somewhere out there in the big wide world.
Yeah.
Alex, you mentioned at some point, like just then, the way the game kind of evolves itself, or I wouldn't say makes itself. There's something that I've noticed a lot as well, where I don't really know where the game is going, and it, like a lot of the time it feels like I'm kind of making it up as it goes along, but it genuinely feels like the game is kind of making itself, or like to start making its own decisions. It's quite interesting to hear you say it as well.
No, it's absolutely. And we've had people like on the team that have worked with us before that was difficult to communicate to. Like they wanted you to kind of almost like tell me everything about the game right now, and I'm like, I don't know like everything right now. I know where it started, and a lot of the ideas are just kind of like present themselves to me as I go, which is it's weird. With some people, it's hard to, it's difficult to make them sort of understand that kind of thing because they feel like you just have to give the roadmap right away, and it's kind of like. I don't think it works with developing games, especially as like with a small team or like a solo developer, unless you're gonna really just cookie cutter a formula or something. Because there's so many things that come along the way that if you're to try and put the whole thing together ahead of time, there's no way those ideas would play well together at the end. And you sort of discover like one idea breeds another, which breeds another, which breeds another.
There's also nothing stopping you from, when it's a small team or a solo project, there's nothing stopping you changing your mind as well. If something,
unless you publisher mandates.
Yeah, of course.
To, don't do publishers. So.
Good stuff.
Do you have a truck in your house?
Do I?
Jordan, I kept hearing a horn or something.
Oh, sorry, I don't know. It's coming from outside, I think.
I was just curious. It's not a problem.
So, I think we're probably getting pretty close to the end. It's getting kind of late and getting kind of early for some of you guys. I don't want to keep you guys from making your games.
Sure.
Are there any? I guess we'll say, are there any finishing thoughts or anything you guys want to add? I don't know. Kind of want to leave it open. It's just kind of fun to just kind of rap and talk. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly about intro to game dev or whatever. I don't know.
I'm sure all of us would like to thank you for being the host and doing a good job.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you, buddy.
I mean,
I really enjoyed it, to be honest.
So
cool.
good.
It was cool.
So good.
Good to talk with fellow Metroidvania developers.
I mean, for me, I want to say like one thing on the, I guess, one thing I was particularly interested with this thing is obviously thank you, Relyea, for the invite, and then it was a pleasure meeting these Jordan and Stevie. But I really wanted to, and I don't want to seem like I'm doing marketing for Stevie here, but I really, really do want to see Zapling get funded. I really find it disheartening when people who have like this much passion and putting themselves into something like this don't get to realize it if it doesn't happen or something. So like, apart from even just the game, if like same thing happened with like the Lone Fungus thing, like I just want people like understand how much passion these guys are putting into this, and like the fact that they're using their days and lives to like put in creative energy to like produce something, as opposed to like going online like spewing toxicity or something. Like I think these are the kind of people we need to support. So please help Stevie get his goal.
Thank you. It means a lot, especially coming from you.
So
yes.
I think it's gonna get there.
I think so too, but yeah,
still. You got this.
I hope so. I've got stuff planned. I mean, I'm working hard, like 12 hours a day non-stop. So yeah, I'm doing everything I can. I appreciate the support.
Love to hear it, dude. I hope you get it backed. I mean, 7 days, you're there. You're there. You can get it. Just don't feel like you can put out too much content on all the different platforms, especially when you're the last week. You can't put out enough content. That's my view on things. Like like Twitter and Instagram and all those different platforms, they have their algorithm to protect people from like seeing too much spam or whatever, if anything. Like you put out enough content, like I don't know, just I don't know. I don't know if you ever feel like that. Sometimes I feel like I am doing
I feel like
too
that
much
with,
sometimes,
with,
but
with Reddit posts. I don't feel like too much of Twitter because a tweet is pretty easy to ignore, and
yeah,
Like if it's popping up all the time, then, and if someone unfollows you on Twitter, they're probably not the person that would end up backing or buying the project anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't mind spamming too much on them kind of platforms.
I
I do find Reddit, I feel a bit guilty for some reason, even though it's not people who follow me. I think that's probably why I feel a bit guilty when I spam Reddit so much, because it just seems like an advert too much. It seems like I'm a salesman when it's on Reddit for some reason.
Different platforms have a different life per post, and I think like Twitter, I think it's like if people don't see it within like 10 minutes, might be 5 minutes, it's really low, then they're just probably not going to see it. And so that's why you're able to get away with posting so much. I think Instagram might be 10 or 15 minutes. Facebook is also pretty short. But yeah. So anyway, get it. A week out.
Get it.
You're there.
Get it. I hope so.
So
I'm rooting for you.
Cheers.
anyway, all right. We're going to go ahead and end the live stream here. Thank you guys all so much for hanging out. And I will catch you next Tuesday. I live stream every Tuesday at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. And yeah, thank you guys so much. All right, bye.
All right, cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.